Cool Figure TV. Revolutionary salute. Revolutionary salute. Like, share, subscribe. Welcome to the House of Revolution. You know I'm your humble host, the Yamin of Revolution. We got a Karmelo Anthony update and some F.B.A. news y'all can use. But before we get into that, y'all be sure to wipe y'all feet. That means hit the like button. You in the House of Revolution. Like, share, subscribe, support the platform, y'all. Let's get right to the content this afternoon. Salute.
We begin with breaking news in McKinney as Karmelo Anthony works to appeal his conviction and seeks a new trial. Within the past hour, the judge who presided over the murder trial has been removed from the case. Let's go straight to our JD Miles, who was inside the courtroom when that decision was announced. So, JD, what can you tell us?
Well, Karen, from everyone I've spoken to in the legal community, they found this decision today very surprising. But as Judge Sid Harrell, the visiting judge, said himself when he made this ruling, this was far from a typical murder trial. The hearing lasted only an hour. The only evidence presented was 18 minutes of a raw interview that Judge John Roach did with a media outlet 2 days after the verdict in June. The defense tried to use that interview to show that the judge was biased by saying he agreed with the jury and other things. And in the end, the visiting judge agreed and granted the recusal. Now, earlier this morning, there were protests and there were demonstrations and chants outside the Collin County Courthouse. I was inside the courtroom where Karmelo Anthony appeared for the first time since the last day of his trial. He was in a dark green prison jumpsuit with shackles. He looked noticeably thinner. The judge allowed the defense to remove those shackles during the hearing. After the defense played audio of the interview, appeals attorney Russell Wilson argued that the judge violated canons of conduct not to speak about the case when a case is pending or there's an impending hearing, which in this case is the appeal. The visiting judge didn't agree with everything the defense said, but in his ruling he said, quote, "In my opinion, there was a period where a motion for a new trial could be filed, and I believe Judge John Roach believes he can be fair in this matter. I believe he can be fair in this matter, but that's not the test."
I think it is surprising. I think most observers probably thought that that was not going to happen, that Roach didn't do anything outside the bounds of his judicial canons or judicial responsibilities. And the judge here in the case obviously disagreed. So now there's a new judge that will be appointed and the hearing for motion for new trial goes on. This doesn't speak to whether or not the motion for new trial will be granted or not. This just speaks to who the judge will be that will be presiding over that hearing.
And that was longtime Collin County criminal defense attorney Todd Shapiro. He's not connected to this case, but he offered some legal analysis there, and he made it clear that this does not necessarily mean anything about what's going to happen tomorrow when there's a motion for a new trial, because the evidence that the judge heard today was based on something that happened 2 days after the trial when Judge John Roach gave an interview. So we're going to be hearing completely new evidence in this motion for a new trial tomorrow. The administrative judge over North Texas, Ray Wheelis, will announce who that judge will preside, who will preside over that hearing will be any minute now. He's probably already made that decision. It just hasn't been announced yet. When that happens, we will be back here tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. when supporters of Karmelo Anthony are expected to be out here, when the attorneys will be back in the courtroom, and the defense, the appeals attorneys, will be arguing for a new trial based on a whole new set of reasons. That's the story from here in Collin County. Live, I'm JD Miles, CBS News, Texas.
Well, that's a big update, JD. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. And our Steve Pickett is he's just outside the Collin County Courthouse where people are gathering and have been gathering to express their opinions about this ruling. Steve.
Oh, yeah, thunderous support and thunderous applause. We heard, Karen.
Revolutionaries was out there real deep today. I had all kind of revolutionaries checking in with me. Salute to our Queen Yaya's kids who was coordinating with Chairman Fred Hampton Jr. had his soldiers out down here from Chicago. You see, the white supremacists got to understand that we on code. We everywhere. All the biggies talking about Lynch, Karmelo, we gonna be what? The revolutionaries is out there. Standing up straight, not born none of that white supremacy. Looking for what to do, whatever they want to do.
People poured out of this courthouse once as JD.
Always remember, I told y'all from the beginning, remember they said Karmelo was going to be raped and beat. And I told y'all, where, when, how, what prison in Texas. We waiting for the racists to tell us where they at in there. Who gonna beat them? Who? You remember I told you all them people going to all them YouTube videos they did. My video's gonna stand out. Talking about how Karmelo first week in prison gonna be. And how it's gonna be bad for all black gangsters. Talking about they was in prison. I tell you, they all woofing. Any black gangster, Asian gangster, white gangster, anybody try to play with Karmelo, I warned them what was gonna happen. Everything looked like it's going about the right way. I said it was gonna go.
He reported that decision was rendered in that courtroom. People who are here to voice their support for Karmelo Anthony in this legal process post-conviction, showcasing it here in this parking lot out here earlier today. To show you the images of so many people who were here earlier this morning, pre and post that hearing earlier this morning. Organized groups, literally dozens of them, were called to show support on this legal fight to appeal this conviction, essentially this sentence for Karmelo Anthony. But as you know, as JD mentioned, the focus today, this morning, was about the judge and should that judge be recused. Many expressing concerns that Anthony's actions were in self-defense when he stabbed and killed Austin Metcalf, but also arguing about this judge. The first of two parts of this post-conviction legal fight happened today, as JD mentioned. I spoke with one of Mr. Anthony's attorneys, Lee Merritt, who came here with this group post this hearing this morning. He is part of the new legal team who shared what the teenager himself, what Karmelo Anthony, felt about this ruling this morning.
Karmelo was extremely relieved. He came into the courtroom today very timid, very exhausted, really. You can see that he had lost weight, he had hardened a bit, he had aged a bit in his time in jail. But to hear the community behind him and then to hear an official proclamation from a judge that says, you know, what your family, what your community is seeking, they're going to be granted today was a huge relief.
And again, that is part one of this process. Folks who had advocated against Judge Roach, claiming that his actions, his statements post that trial were inappropriate, getting that recusal today. The group who was here today, they were encouraged to be here tomorrow for part two. Reporting live, Steve Pickett, CBS News.
All right, good afternoon. It's the Fit Lawyer ATL, and I am outside of the courthouse here in Collin County. We have just ended, it's probably been about 20 minutes or so. And I'm in the room trying to, people are calling. I'm trying to put the phone on Do Not Disturb. I thought it already was. All right. Okay. See y'all coming into the room. Hello, the Fit Lawyer ATL. And we are here live on the ground at the Collin County Courthouse here in Texas for the Karmelo Anthony motion to recuse. It was granted. The judge today, Judge Hall, heard the motion and granted the motion to recuse. All right, I see you all coming into the room, just trying to, people are driving by. Let me make sure not in the way. As you can see, I'm outside of the Collin County Courthouse here in Texas for the Karmelo Anthony hearings. There was just a large crowd on the steps chanting, "Free Karmelo, free Karmelo." Come into the room. Jersey Girl Trey says, "Hey, Fit and fam, thank you so much. Mods, come into the room." All right, so y'all know me and my note taking. I will say this though, right? Judge Hall did grant the motion to recuse. However, you could tell that he still was trying to protect Judge Roach and the fact that he did not want the attorneys to put anything in the order that stating that Judge Roach violated any judicial canons, okay? And so we're going to go into this in great detail later when I'm in the hotel room So stay tuned. But I just wanted to kind of give you all a quick update. All right. So we had to get in line this morning. We were here early. They gave us cards to get in. There were only 40 people outside of the media that were allowed into the courtroom. So we were given these cards, business cards with the sheriff to say what number you were. I was number 37. Thank God I got a card. All right. So I was able to get inside the courtroom. We were let into the courthouse at 7 a.m. They let us into the courtroom about 8:40-ish. And then court started exactly at 9. They brought in Karmelo from the back. He did come in handcuffed. After the attorneys did their introductions, Karmelo Anthony's attorney, one of them asked if he could be uncuffed for the hearing. The judge said it was up to the deputies, and the deputy in the courtroom agreed. And so they unhandcuffed him for the hearing only. So I actually sat directly behind Jeff Metcalf, like 2 people over, so I could see all his facial expressions and everything through the hearing. That's how I was able to recognize who he was. The only evidence that was submitted in court was the interview. They did submit other exhibits that they had already discussed prior, so they were submitted to the judge as soon as they came in. It was exhibits 1 through 12 and 16, and they were some kind of like public opinions. And I wrote down some of those numbers, so we'll go over those more in greater detail on the live because they didn't share those documents with us. They just gave us the opinion numbers. And so there's a such thing called judicial canons, right? I'm an attorney practicing a 20-year criminal defense attorney and personal injury attorney in Atlanta, Georgia. There are rules that we have to follow, right? So there are rules that the judges have to follow, and they're called judicial canons. Karmelo's attorneys raised that Judge Roach had violated 5 of those by giving the interview. Number 1, speaking on something that is still pending, that is still can come back before you. And even though, I mean, that's exactly what happened, right? And he did recuse him. Judge Hall sits on the judicial committee for the state of Texas. And he was clear to say, and he said it over and over, I am not finding that Judge Roach violated any of the judicial canons. I am simply saying that if a person on the outside was to look at this case, and that's what the law says, and y'all, it's hot out here, it's like 100-some degrees, so this will be quick because I'm burning up. But he was saying that when you're looking at a motion to recuse, you simply decide if a person that's outside of this, will they look at the case, will they get all of the knowledge, all the facts, and when they look at everything that happened in the case, could they find that there was something that was biased that occurred? And after the interview played, y'all, they played the whole 18-minute interview in court. That was the only evidence that was submitted outside of the exhibits that we couldn't see, but what was played was the video. Now, once the defense said they had this video to play, the state said, well, Judge, you read the transcript. We don't really have to go through that again. And the defense and the judge said, yeah, I have read the transcript, but they can go ahead and play it. And I mean, it was important to hear it because all of the statements that the judge made throughout this interview, I've heard it so many times, but I was taking notes today. He says things such as that the jury got it right. He goes so far as to make that statement. Now he tries to explain himself, right? And he says that the jury got it right because they were in panel, they listened to the facts, they deliberated, and they came up with a verdict. So that means that they got it right. But what the Karmelo's attorneys argued was like, you're speaking to the validity of the verdict and the case is still pending. It's going to come back to you. Also, the judge made several statements in his interview, like, I follow the law. I can sleep at night because I follow the law. As long as I follow the law, I know that I'm doing everything right. But they're saying, Judge, we got to go back before him. And we're saying you did not follow the law. This is the law. This is what you're supposed to do whenever you consider putting in restrictions for the courtroom and you didn't follow it. So, Judge, don't send this case back to him because how is he going to be unbiased on it if he's already made statements in his interview speaking to the very things that we're raising, right? He says he followed the law. He did everything right. So if we come back before him and say, no, Judge, you didn't do something right, he's not going to listen to a judge. This is going to be a bias. All right. And so that playing that interview was the only evidence, as I stated. Now, you know, there's a part in the interview where the judge talks about how he balanced the media right to the trial and the public. And the interviewer and Judge Wilson pointed this out during his argument. Paul said, Judge, isn't the public and the media the same? Like we are the extension of the public. Like we're the how they get the information. And so they brought that up in their argument to say, like, in deciding to shut out the some of the media and the public, you're thinking about it. You're having this conversation about whether stuff should be done. Well, guess what? It wasn't on any of the documents. You didn't put that in the order. You didn't make a finding on the record. I will say that Bill Worthy, when he jumps up, and like I said, we'll go into more detail later on, he says, Judge, we're not going to really be making an argument here. I don't really think it's our job to defend Judge Roach. So he really could have sat down because, like, they really didn't make an argument. He's like, look, I've been knowing Judge Roach for a very long time. He's very fair. I've defended cases before Judge Roach. I've prosecuted cases before Judge Roach. He's very fair. So, you know, I don't feel like he acted biased in this case. That was kind of the approach the state took. They didn't bring in any evidence. They didn't try to talk directly to the evidence that the defense presented. They're basically just like, look, it's not our job to defend him, Judge. You're hearing everything. You got the facts. You're going to make the decision. So it's your call. So they also went on to say, like, you know, I've been before the judge as a defense attorney, as a prosecutor. I know he's fair. And so they kind of spoke on that. They never did to say, like, from this interview, do you not see a bias? They didn't really come to that. They just like, you know, hey, it's not up to us, Judge. It's up to you. We're not here to defend Judge Roach. So whatever decision you make, you make. Now, before the hearing started, the judge said that he wanted each side to present proposed orders so that he could rule, because he wanted to make a decision. He had to make a decision today, right? Because the motion for new trial is tomorrow. Well, at the end, the judge says, like I say, after he made his decision, hey, give me your order, but don't give me anything in the order saying that Judge Roach violated a judicial canon. I am only taking him off the case because a person on the outside could look at all the facts in this case, look at the interview. I mean, it was done 2 days after the verdict and decide that the judge was biased. So that is why he ended up granting it. I will say that once he granted it, so I was in the actual courtroom, and there was an overflow courtroom down the hall. They, you know, it's like a little delay. So we get the news, we're up, our door opens, and you can hear when they get the news, because then they start screaming and hollering. There was a lot of cheers. There was also cheers about 8:35 when Karmelo's legal team came in. Everybody was cheering and clapping for them. So there were a lot of Karmelo Anthony supporters here today. So there was a lot of cheering. Once everyone came outside, they then began to march around and took pictures and singing songs and stuff on the steps. So a lot of people, I'm sure, will be here again tomorrow for the motion for new trial. The sun is beaming. I cannot really see if anybody has any questions, and I'm sweating. So what I am going to do is I'll go through these questions on this live once it posts. Stay tuned. What time is it? It's like 10. Oh, what says it's 10:40.
Check out my Patreon, and of course, check Justin Metcalf. And he has been sentenced to 35 years behind bars. Now, a lot of people have been feeling some type of way about that piece of information. All right. And like I said, I'm not saying anything. I leave that conversation up to you guys in the family chat. All right. But nonetheless, he has been sentenced to 35 years in prison. Now, here's the thing. His team, he brought in a brand new team to try to appeal the sentencing, because like a lot of other people, he agrees that he believes, and his family believes, that his sentencing is extreme. And they do think that there was corruption within this entire trial. We got to do the dun, dun, dun. And maybe there was? Hold up. Because we got some new information revolving around Karmelo Anthony and his appeals in court today. Today, of all days, the judge that was presiding over his case and would have been presiding over his appeals has just been recused from Karmelo Anthony's case, which is some shocking information. I'm going to tell you, I didn't think this was going to happen. I really didn't. But now I got questiones. And I think y'all should have some questions too. For those of y'all who are thinking that Karmelo Anthony, he got the right sentencing and let that monster be locked behind bars and all of that. Okay, fine. But there are people on the other side of the world that think different, that think that what happened here was unjust, that there was corruption within the entire trial. I mean, it was pretty insane if you ask me. The trial was kind of crazy. Okay, let's just keep it a bean. It was absolutely insane. There were things that they could have challenged throughout the trial, his defense team, and they didn't. Basically, it was a landslide, smack in his face the entire trial. Remember, he was innocent until proven guilty. Yes, I know. He is the one who actually stabbed Austin Metcalf. That's without question. He did. But he didn't have a fighting chance in that courtroom. It was insane. Then on top of that, the judge himself, they have been side-eyeing that judge since the start of that trial. And now that judge has been removed. He's been kicked out. He has been removed from anything pertaining to Karmelo Anthony's case or any possible future trials, period. Which tells you something here. Whether you like it or not, something was rotten down there going on. Don't get me wrong. Like I said, this young man did take the life of Austin Metcalf. He did admit that he did it. There's no question about that. But shouldn't he and any other person have a fair trial? Anyone. Doesn't matter if you're standing there with the smoking gun or not. Everyone deserves a fair trial. Everyone. So this is a very interesting turn of events. So let's take a look at this. All right. And again, I appreciate you guys being here. You know, I know we haven't been covering the Karmelo Anthony stuff in a while. We kind of needed a break. This is a big piece of information that we do need to keep savvy, because tomorrow they're going to be making more choices on whether or not they're going to be taking steps forward to a new trial. So this is going to be a very interesting situation. So attorneys for Karmelo Anthony succeeded on Wednesday, today, in their efforts to have Collin County Judge John Roach removed from all appeal efforts. All of them. A new judge will be appointed before Thursday morning's hearing on whether the 19-year-old convicted killer deserves a new trial. So tomorrow morning, everyone will be sitting at the edge of their seats, waiting to find out whether or not he can have another new trial, which is absolutely insane. And again, all I'm saying is there's a lot that was being said in that trial that does make you wonder, was it 110% a fair trial? That's it. Okay? That's it. And I'm going to tell you this too. If Brian Kohberger, for example, with the Idaho 4 murders, if he didn't have a fair trial, I'd be saying the same thing too. I'd be like, did he have a fair trial or not? Right? If there was corruption, if there was moments there that show a little cracks in the foundation, I'd be asking the same doggone question. So it has nothing to do, me personally, has nothing to do with the fact that this is Karmelo Anthony. I'd say the same thing about any other person that's on trial. Okay. Even the ones that I absolutely loathe. Okay. I'd be like, that's messed up. That's corrupt. That's wrong. And it looks like that could have been what's going on here too. Just saying. All right. Everyone, even the most dirty, nastiest of nasty, deserve a fair trial so that when you lock them up, they're locked up for good. No questions asked, right? Just saying that out loud. Moving on, though. Anthony was found guilty of murder, okay, which we already know, for taking the life of Austin Metcalf on April 2nd. Okay, witnesses reported that Anthony took the life of Metcalf in the chest with a pocket knife during a seating dispute at a regional track meet. So Anthony was a student at the Centennial High School, but was under the Memorial High School tent, which we already know. Austin Metcalf reportedly told him to kick rocks, get out from underneath the tent. Obviously, all things went belly up. Everything went into chaos. And then, of course, Karmelo plunged this knife into the chest of Austin Metcalf, taking that young man's life. Okay. So he was sentenced to 35 years in prison, which we already know. All right. And his new team of defense lawyers is fighting for a retrial and argued that Judge Roach, who presided over the initial trial, should be recused from the case going forward. So today, visiting Judge Sid Harrell, who served as the judge in the first Uvalde school shooting trial, weighed the arguments and evidence regarding the recusal effort. So another judge will sit over Thursday's hearing for a new trial. So Judge Roach, he gone now. And the hearings could feature new facts and testimony that have not been previously made public, which is also very, very interesting. We're going to hop over here to this video here discussing all of this as well.
Live now from Fox, I'm Stephanie Quinu. Now to a story that we have been following for quite some time, and that is this. The appeals process for Karmelo Anthony's murder trial is getting underway right now. So back in June, Anthony was convicted of killing 17-year-old Austin Metcalf at a Frisco track meet. Well, now his new legal team has a list of requests, starting with a new judge. To talk more on this, I do want to bring in Fox 4's Peyton May, who joins us live outside of the courthouse with the very latest. Peyton, what can you share with us?
Dang.
Yes, good morning. Within the last 30 minutes, both the families of Austin Metcalf and Karmelo Anthony entered into the courtroom. Karmelo Anthony also entered a little bit later on. Now, he had his hair cut. He was wearing handcuffs initially. His defense team asked for those cuffs to be removed, and that did happen. Now, Anthony was sentenced to 35 years in prison for the fatal stabbing of Austin Metcalf a year ago. Anthony has a completely new legal team this time around, though, made up of pretty well-known civil rights and criminal defense attorneys. They're hoping for both a new judge and a new trial. Now, today's hearing is focusing on whether a different judge will oversee Anthony's request. Visiting Judge Sid Harrell, who presided over the first Uvalde school shooting trial, will hear arguments here in McKinney this morning. Anthony's attorneys are asking that Judge John Roach, who presided over Anthony's initial trial, is removed from all his future proceedings. Judge Roach previously said in an interview that he believes Anthony's trial was fair to both sides. What happens today will directly impact a hearing tomorrow. In that proceeding, Anthony's attorneys will request a new trial, raising constitutional and legal challenges to the original trial. Now, they want those issues to be decided by an independent judge. If Judge Roach is recused today, another judge will sit over tomorrow's hearing for a new trial. But if he isn't, Anthony's attorneys will be arguing for a new trial before the same judge who stated the first one was fair. Now, inside of the courtroom right now, members of the public and the families of Anthony and Metcalf are listening to the defense team right now. Defense attorneys are playing an interview that was recorded previously with the previous judge, that judge saying that he prepared for this trial for 8 months. He had no ties to the Metcalf family, and all he wanted was a fair trial.
Okay, again, a lot of people are saying, yeah, miss me with the bullshit. I'm just going to be real. A lot of people do not believe Judge Roach being like, yo, we wanted a fair trial. I've been working on this for the last 8 months. We just want a fair trial. But when you read the transcripts, when we heard all the information that was coming out of that courtroom, we heard and read for ourselves some very interesting. It was just wild. It was wild. It seemed as if even the person that was representing Karmelo Anthony wasn't doing his proper job at representing Karmelo Anthony. I'm just saying, all right? I'm not sitting here saying that this kid should walk. I really don't, all right? But at the same time, the kid deserves a fair trial, just like every other American on this doggone planet, in this country, all right? And when you have something like this and you see, or at least you're reading, how there was no real objections, no firing back when they came to present his side of the argument, there was, I mean, it was just lackluster. And of course, when all we want to do, all we want is transparency and some more information on his side and what other people saw, and they had nothing. It's pretty insane. Now, that could literally be that what people saw is what they saw, and they were siding with Austin because, that's a tragic passing of this young man. Or maybe the defense didn't do their damn job well enough. You see what I'm saying? I don't know. All I'm saying is pretty insane stuff. How that all went down. Just to be real. And there's a lot of people that are challenging this judge and feeling like Judge Roach may have been doing some dirty on behalf of Austin Metcalf. That he had bias way before he walked into this trial. And maybe that he was corrupted in some sort of way from outside sources. I don't know. I don't know all that. But what I do know is that every person deserves a fair trial. And if people are challenging that, then if the people, his team, etc., are challenging that, and now Judge Roach has been kicked off, that should tell you something, in my personal opinion. But we're going to look at some live footage here, too. So give me a second. Let's get this going.
So I encourage you to at least pause what you're doing. I'm certainly against the flock drones.
All over the
now,
place.
one of the concerns that I heard from residents last night was about
Based upon those statements, under that limited finding, I'm going to grant the recusal that a third party looking in would have that issue. That is it. That's all I'll sign. I want to prepare for that and to get it to me, and I will sign it. So the judge really just based his decision, it looks like, on that one limited view that all things being equal, you look at this judge from the outside as an outside spectator, and you might get the impression he's impartial just based on the fact that he gave these interviews and that he said the jury got it right, among other things. Now, I spoke to local legal experts about this. I spoke to a longtime Collin County defense attorney, Todd Shapiro, just now. He was surprised by this. He frankly predicted that the judge would allow John Roach to continue along this path and oversee tomorrow's new trial motion.
No.
But he says that this should not affect at all the hearing tomorrow over a new trial. He says that will impact other facets of this case. The defense will have to present a whole different argument. And this judge that has been recused, Judge John Roach, gave this interview 2 days after the trial. So the decision today was not based on anything that happened during the trial. It was based on what happened 2 days after the trial. So
I'm going to say this really quick, too. Judge Roach done screwed the pooch, okay, when he did that. I think he exposed his ass by doing that. He exposed his whole ass when he did that. And just in my personal opinion. All right. And maybe unbeknownst to him, maybe, he didn't mean to expose his ass. But at the same time, you got everybody and their mama side-eyeing him and everybody inside that courtroom. I think the only person that they're not side-eyeing, those that wanted a real trial and real justice for for Austin Metcalf and for Karmelo Anthony. And if you're looking at it in, with a different pair of glasses, okay, for lack of a better term, you're looking at that situation, you're going, hey, no, that did not look like a fully fair trial, especially when you got Judge Roach going out into an interview and saying all the things that he said there too. He just gave them more ammo. Literally. He didn't even need to do that interview. In fact, he could have just kept his damn mouth shut and keep it moving. But that's not what he did now, did he? So here we go. Now we're here. And here's the other thing, too. The fact that you have the judge being removed from this actual appeals procedure, probably aside from any of this stuff, all right, aside from bias, aside from your own political bias, what side of the fence you stand on, whether it's Team Austin or Team Karmelo, I'll tell you this. This was the best choice when it comes to this appeal. Because here's the thing. If Judge Roach continued to preside over this Karmelo Anthony appeal, there would be nothing but chaos outside in those streets. You got to think about that too. There'd be nothing but chaos outside those streets, outside of that courthouse. Because you know for a fact, look at all the people behind that reporter right there. Look at all the people. You don't think that it would just cause even more crap if Judge Roach was the one making the decisions on whether or not Karmelo Anthony can get an actual appeal? I'm telling you right now, it would have been a cluster F. Civil war outside of that courthouse. Trust. So, remember when the verdict came? Remember when the verdict and the sentencing came? How insane it was outside outside that courthouse? It was insane. So this is probably the best choice. Letting another judge, an independent judge that is not connected to this trial or to this case at all whatsoever, make the decision on whether or not Karmelo Anthony can actually get another trial. And if this judge says, nah, I think the whole thing went down fairly, then it is what it is. But if it was Judge Roach doing this and he says, nope, the decisions were made, it's all, it is what it is. Go back to your little jail cell, little man. Enjoy life behind bars for 35 years. I feel like everybody would be losing their minds. It'd still be absolute chaos in those streets. So this is also the best choice as far as that goes. I'm just letting you know, okay? Just letting you know. But let's continue. Let's hear the rest of this.
The defense will have another high bar to meet if they want to win this motion for a new trial tomorrow and go 2 for 2.
So, JD, I mean, this was obviously a huge win for Karmelo Anthony, for Anthony's family, for the community, and a lot of folks who supported Karmelo Anthony in this case. So where does this move the trial for tomorrow? What does that look like?
Okay, well, Carmen, there's a administrative judge who handles across the region the placement of judges when they're brought in, either visiting or they're assigned because of recusals or because judges are out of town or whatnot. That judge is Ray Wheelis. He's a longtime Collin County judge here. He's retired from that role, but now he operates this administrative position, and so he will decide today at some point who that judge will be, and he will have that judge, I'm told, ready to oversee tomorrow's proceedings at the moment that they've scheduled it for, which is 9 a.m. tomorrow. So we will get a new judge who will hear that motion for a new trial tomorrow. We don't know who it is yet, but I'm told everything's still a go for tomorrow.
Yep, I'm telling you right now, tomorrow might be an absolute cluster F, or it might be just, people rejoicing over this situation. I just saw a couple comments. I can't pull it up on the screen, but I'm going to read it off screen here really quick. Stephanie K just said, and I appreciate this, thank you so much, but the judge being recused in Texas tells you all that you need to know. Corrupt. And that's exactly what a lot of people are looking at this as. They're going like, listen, this is showing us proof positive that there is corruption going on here. Without question. Without question. I don't know. It does tell me something. It could be two different things. One, it's corruption. Two, they're going, hey, no, let's get some fresh eyes on this because the streets are talking. Maybe that's what it is. I'm leaning more on the side of corrupt. I'm going to keep it. I'm sorry, I'm going to keep it a bean, okay? I'm sorry, but I got to keep it a bean, y'all. I see corruption. I'm just going to keep it real. Okay. I see corruption. And that was when we were watching when we were even covering the case. I'm like, damn, nothing for this kid? He ain't got his own lawyers. Even his own lawyer who's done interviews and all that, they presented nothing? What? Wow, he didn't even have a dog in the fight. Okay? He didn't have a dog in the fight at all. That's ridiculous. Okay, so again, let's find out what they're going to do, but I feel it was a bit corrupt. I don't think justice was incredibly 110% presented. You know, it's like this. You know, when you go and you see, no, I'm not biased. I'm just calling it like I see it. I'm calling balls and strikes. And like I said, if I was watching another case, or if this case was if the same procedure happened on another person and that person was an absolute monster, just a piece of trash, okay? And I wanted to see that person locked the F up, I'd still be saying this, going, well, yeah. I mean, it looked like there was some corruption going on. He didn't have, like, they didn't present nothing. They just basically let the dude roast. That's it. And you see this situation, and I'm like, wow, this kid didn't even have, literally, you read the transcripts, go through you read the transcripts, go through the live coverage of this of what I did, of what I covered within this this trial, which sucked because you couldn't see. There was no cameras inside the courtroom, which was ridiculous. So hopefully maybe this time, if they're going to do a trial, that's if they do another trial, hopefully they do have cameras in the room so everyone can see everything. You see what I'm saying? Because all we're doing is reading transcripts and things that are written by reporters, you know, you know, and we're just reading it in black and white. It's something different when you see it with your own two eyes, right, on camera. But what we read, I was like, dang, he didn't even have a dog in the fight. Not nothing. Nobody was there to, it seems like, to defend his side. And that's his legal right. That's a problem. That's a big problem. If you noticed, by the way, okay. Yeah, right. In that crazy level, 5,000. You know what I mean? 1 second. Yo, oh, thank you so much for doing X, Y, and Z the next day. But that's usually how it is. You know what I mean? I'm not going to always have the same opinion as you guys. Sorry. But like I said, when you got somebody who you see, wow, he's not even getting a chance, that's wild. I'm going to call it out. I'm calling it out. I'm calling it out. This kid he definitely took the life of Austin Metcalf. He definitely did. There's no question about that. But something about this trial was weird. Just very, very weird. Okay? Just in my personal opinion. But let's go on. Let's move on to some more coverage here. Okay? Let me skip ahead here, actually. And yeah, people are rejoicing in the streets right now. But I'm going to tell you right now. Let me just tell you right now. This don't mean a damn thing. It don't mean a mother-loving damn thing, fam. It doesn't mean a damn thing. Sure, Judge Roach gone. Woo, yay, whoop-de-doo. Okay, it doesn't mean anything. This judge could be just as corrupt, if not worse. Or he may just go, nah, what they made, what the decision was made. The jury made the right decisions. His sentencing was fair. The trial itself was fair. Go back to your jail cell, son. Enjoy 35 years. Or see you in 17 and a half, as long as you a good boy. Bye. This judge could do the same damn thing. It don't mean nothing. So sure, it's like, ooh, it gives you some sense of relief for those who feel that Karmelo did not get a fair trial. Okay? Sure. But you never know who this judge is. This judge could be Judge Mosquito. You never know. Okay? He might be Judge Cockroach. You never know. You know what I mean? We had Judge Roach. Now, you know, let's think of another pest. Okay? Judge Rat. We don't know. We don't know. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. And it could be, you know, a massive change, and he could actually get another trial. Possible. Well, let's continue here, shall we?
Folks saying right now, what's the mood outside the courthouse?
It was exuberance, if you will, from the dozens, as JD mentioned, who came out of that courthouse in response to that ruling from this judge. But the man at the table, Lee Merritt, one of the attorneys for this, in this particular case for this young man, you were there. Talk to me about why this was so important. Watching the emotion from people regarding this issue, Mr. Merritt.
A lot of the family member, I have to start with Karmelo Anthony's family. They were here a few months ago. They sat in the same courtroom and they listened to a sentence that was extreme and they felt hopeless. And to have the judge less than 48 hours go on TV and say, hey, everything went well, that you know, there was nothing to correct about this trial seemed pretty permanent. So today, having that judge recused, hearing the evidence about what the law requires about judicial behavior and how he violated, that was very, very important.
I think they had a very strong point right there. That's a strong argument that, hey, he, you know, the judge that was presiding over that particular trial, 2 whole days later, he does an exclusive interview and he says, yeah, I think the jury made the right decision, so on and so forth. So in other words, it doesn't matter if they were to try to appeal, which is what they usually do. Okay. Which is what they usually try to do. It doesn't matter. This is what they usually try to do. Every particular look at what Brian Coco doing. Koberger, I call him Coco. All right. What is Brian Koberger doing right now? He's also trying to appeal, even though he said himself that he did it, that he's guilty and he took a plea deal. Remember? Now he's also trying to get his stuff thrown out. Okay. Even he is trying to get his crap thrown out. All right. Now imagine if a judge went, and I mean, obviously, Brian Koberger did all that. He pleaded guilty because he did all that. But imagine if he went through a trial and then that judge went out and said, yeah, the decisions were just fine, right? The decisions by the jury was completely just and fine. That tells you that that judge is not going to read or even bat an eye towards any documents about an appeal. So in other words, that's what they're saying. Listen, there's no point in trying to have him preside over these appeals because he's already saying that he's ironclad, that he's standing 10 toes down on the decisions that this jury made. You're not even giving us a fight. You're not even giving us a chance to fight. He did that 48 hours after the verdict was made. So he's basically saying, I ain't budging. So he's the wrong guy to preside over these appeals, even on that, too. You see what I'm saying? That's not good. So he's been recused to, over these particular appeals. Because he's saying, hey, we done. We're done. This trial's over. He don't need to appeal. Let him rot in prison. They're trying to appeal. You see what I'm saying? So again, very, very interesting stuff. Chelsea, thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate it. You should do a poll. Chat seems split about this. Yeah, give me a second and we will get into it. Let's take a listen to the rest of this.
Symbolically, if you will, I know what the law stipulates, but how important was this in the galvanizing of people paying more attention to this argument on behalf of Karmelo Anthony about a new trial?
Well, for a lot of people, they just thought, well, of course, everyone's entitled to try, but there's no real bones there. What the court concluded today was that, no, there was some things that went wrong during that trial, starting with the judge's comments and the judge's posture to finish this. The trial is not complete until Karmelo's appellate options are exhausted, until he has the right to at least ask for a new trial. And that has to be heard by a fair arbiter of the law. That is not Judge Roach. We're looking forward to hearing who Collin County assigns in the case.
Will that process take place today? Because we know this hearing is scheduled for tomorrow. So educate the folks on what's the next step on this day.
Yeah, there's been a lot of waiting. And so today we wanted to see if we could get a new trial. A new judge, the judge has made the decision today. We handed him the order. He's signing it now. It'll go into the Collin County process for randomly selecting a new judge in the case. And so that's today. Tomorrow we get into that new judge hearing our motion for a new trial.
Let me ask you finally, for your client, for Mr. Anthony, how did he feel? What was his passion on this issue of recusal?
Karmelo was extremely relieved. He came into the courtroom today very timid, very exhausted, really. You see that he had lost weight, he had hardened a bit, he had aged a bit in his time in jail. But to hear the community behind him and then to hear an official proclamation from a judge that says, what your family, what your community is seeking, they're going to be granted today was a huge relief.
Lee Merritt, we thank you for your time. We know you.
Yeah. Again, this is going to be a very, very, very interesting couple days. Because
You guys, this is a big win in the Karmelo Anthony case. It's about time we got some good news. Now, I know you already heard the judge got recused. And if you didn't hear, I'm going to explain that in a little bit. But I also want to tell you the top 5 ways this is one of the biggest legal victories that we could hope for. And it shows that Karmelo actually might have a huge shot at justice. Now, let's actually talk about the recusal, all right? Because that's the thing that just gets me. Okay, first of all, I need to clear up a misconception. Just because the judge got recused does not mean Karmelo and his family automatically get a new trial. But baby, this is the best case scenario and a horrible situation, all right? Now listen, 1, judges rarely get recused. No matter what happens and what anybody tells you, judges rarely get recused, especially in the state of Texas. It takes extraordinary circumstances, extraordinary miscarriages of justice, extraordinary oversteps to actually make that happen, right? For a visiting judge, and all a visiting judge means is that you're brought in and you're not supposed to have the same ego and connections and ties to the case. So you're supposed to be impartial. So for an impartial judge to be brought in, look over everything that happened and then be like, yeah, you went too far. It's too much, right? 1, it's incredibly humiliating for the judge. 2, it does send a message to the jurors. But 3, and let's be real, that judge pretty much gift wrapped everything that was going to happen on his own accord. When judges are, when they actually make a ruling, they are not supposed to do media. They are not supposed to do press. They're not to go. He went on a whole spur, even going on Fox News, and his ego and his arrogance. I think that's actually what got him removed from the case. Now, let's talk about, even if it was not in a trial, this is the best case scenario and why that is. Because here's the thing, his defense attorneys are not taking the old road that you would think, okay? They have actually conducted a brilliant legal strategy, and I'm going to explain it to you right now. Hold on. Okay, so I actually took some notes from my legal research, right? Now, here's the thing. Karmelo's defense team has engineered a super, super unique, viable path because they have shifted the battlefield away from pure sufficiency of evidence. What that means is a lot of people say when you go for an appeal, they think that you have a chance to argue your case a second time. That's not what an appeal is. All an appeal is supposed to do is look at the evidence presented, whether it was presented in a legal, logical way, and whether procedure was followed. For instance, you don't know, but there are civil rules to procedure. There's criminal rules to procedure. And every courtroom, even though it might look like Bedlam, there are rules that the judge, the defense, the jury, and the prosecution must actually follow. And that's usually what appeals focus on. However, appeals can also point to structural and constitutional errors. Okay. What does that mean? It's not whether the judge sustained objections or if they did anything procedurally wrong. The point of a case, at a core of the case, is to actually make sure that somebody's constitutional rights are upheld. Okay. The prosecutor is upholding the state's, the people's constitutional rights. That's why they don't want serial killers on the street, right? Because constitutional rights are being infringed on, right? However, the defense team, their job is to uphold the constitutional rights of the accused. The accused in America are innocent until proven guilty. And when you infringe on those constitutional rights, on a fair trial, guilty, it creates a unique legal pathway that would give Karmelo a chance to actually get what do you call it? A new trial. Now I know what you're saying, Tisa, because I looked this up too. I know what you're saying, Tisa. That doesn't make any sense. If that's the case, everybody could get because they're constitutional. No, because here's the thing that you don't realize. It's not just put it like this. Say we have a trial about whether Tisa stole a cookie, right? At the end of the day, whether I stole the cookie or not, like, and we're going on trial and I go to jail for stealing a cookie, right? And then I come out and say, no, because my cousin's best friend's mom, named Helda, that hasn't seen me, didn't know me, and wasn't around, she was scheduled to testify. But because the judge did A, B, and C, she couldn't testify. Okay. That is an infringement on constitutional rights, but the infringement has to be so bad that if I had gotten my constitutional right, it probably more likely than not would have swayed the jury. Do you see what I'm saying? It's not just enough to prove that maybe a witness didn't get to say. It's not enough to prove that something went wrong. You then have a second thing where you have to prove something went wrong. And if it had happened correctly, right? If that constitutional right had been upheld, it more than likely than not would have had an impact on the jury. So it's not just something that didn't happen, but what didn't happen needed to be something so heavy, so groundbreaking. Now, where does Karmelo have? Listen to this, because as we know, here's the strength of the appeal in the retrial. His 10-minute Fifth Amendment violation. Arguing that a 19-year-old defendant scared out of his mind with, I would argue, a super inept attorney. I think that I don't know. They need to check to see if he has a white hood. And I'm not saying he's Klan, but I'm saying if we discovered white hoods in his basement, I would not be surprised. I think his parents were fools to trust that lawyer. I think that they're probably looking at the way Ben Crump is handling Nolan Wells' case, and they're probably wishing they hadn't listened to the people in the case, telling them to just let it fly and that they had come out swinging. Because I do believe, my opinion from what I saw, it was a setup from the start. Anyway, and I mean, like, the way that I think the whole legal system was in on it. Maybe I don't have any proof. That's just my feeling. Anyway, so they argued he was 19. He was scared out of his mind. He was given only 10 minutes to decide whether to waive his constitutional right to testify. 10 minutes. You had 10 minutes to make a decision that could have affected you for the rest of your life. Okay. Now, while the court, and get this, the court, which is the judge, when they're like, no, we need more time, can we think? The judge denied it. Justice must be efficient, but not at the point of it bringing in unfairness. You gave somebody 10 minutes to decide something that literally could have changed the course of their life. That seems cruel and unusual, and it seems like a violation, right? Now, get this. Because the judge denied requests for more time, he could have put the court in recess. It's a massive red flag on appeal. It directly impacts his due process and the fundamental fairness of the proceeding. And one can make a strong argument that a person on trial for murder not being able to have adequate time to decide whether they're going to testify or not, if his testimony had been heard by the court, that I think is relevant, because the jury may have, more likely than not, changed their opinion of what it was. So again, this is something that's really great. The procedural and timing prejudice. The judge forced court sessions on a Saturday when key defense witnesses, including a neuropsychologist slated to testify about medical neurological factors that would have played a big role, were unavailable, creates a compelling record for abuse of discretion. Again, the judge's ego. It was his court. He's running things the way he wants. But we have experts coming in. Well, they can't come on Saturday. Too bad. Why did you even force a Saturday date? Because you were more concerned about finishing so you could go to Fox News and talk trash and then get recused, which is actually very embarrassing. You gave somebody 10 minutes to decide something that could have changed the course of their life. There's also the trial judge's unforced error. Judge Roach, the recused Judge Roach, was given post-trial media interviews endorsing the verdict and calling the trial a career highlight. Because of his ego, his arrogance, and the way he wanted everyone to know, I did it. It was me. You wanted those, because you wanted all of conservative media to say, yeah, it was me. This is career highlight. I did it. Okay. Well, you did it. You did it. And now you're recused, right? Listen, it gave the defense all the ammunition it needed. Now, let me just say this before I go. I do need to give a reality check. This is fantastic news. But that doesn't mean that the new judges puts in is going to be any more favorable. This is true. However, there is the ego invested interest factor, which is now gone. Judge Rose wasn't a neutral arbitrator by the end. He had publicly tied his own professional reputation to the verdict and defended his rulings on TV and sealed court records. He had personal incentives to rule that his own courtroom procedures were flawless. And the thing is, if he hadn't gotten recused, this would have been the same person, as you know, looking over his appeal, because he already went out letting us know what time he was on. Here's the thing. There was no way with that judge in there that he would have gotten a fair trial. Now, at least there is a chance, and to let the truth and the evidence speak for themselves. There's also the blank slate. A replacement judge stepping in doesn't have to spend political or psychological capital defending the judge's rushed 10-minute deadlines or Saturday schedule quirks. They can look at the procedural missteps objectively without needing to protect their or their colleagues' legacy. Also, if the new judge does ultimately deny the motion for a new trial, and that's what everybody's worried about, yes, it cleans up the procedural record for the 5th District of Appeals in Dallas, and that isn't good. However, the new judge's decision can actually be appealed to. So again, listen, Karmelo's parents didn't need to, but that lawyer screwed him over. I do think it was a setup from the beginning. I think the Good Old Boys Network, I think it was a fix from the beginning. This is the best hope that Karmelo's gotten in a long while. And I mean, even when he had his old judge and he was sitting there, this is the best hope that we've seen, and hopefully it can move forward. Anyway, you guys, listen, happy birthday to Nolan Wells. These are two completely different cases. Of course, poor Nolan is gone. Karmelo's future, why he is alive, is gone. But I will say that I am glad that we are speaking truth to power and dotting every I and looking forward. And now I want to see how this goes with a new unbiased judge that's looking at it with clear eyes. Again, nothing is promised, but this is the best news we've gotten in a long while on this case. Anyway, y'all, let me know what you think in the comments. I'll talk to you later. Bye.
An accidental drowning under no suspicious circumstances would not require a presentation to a grand jury, and the DA could make that call herself. So evidently, there's something not clean in the milk. There's something not clean in the milk.
Peace and blessings.
Peace and blessings, all praises to the Most High. And that was our dear brother, Judge Carlos Moore, from former Mississippi judge, talking about the current Mississippi DA prosecutor, Angel McElrath, or McElrath, as they say, and her role and what many people feel is a cover-up in the Nolan Wells death. Now, as you heard him say, that there is a presentation that is being presented to the grand jury. But as he said, if there was an accidental drowning and there's no foul play, why would you have to present information to a grand jury if there's nothing to investigate or there has been no actions that are required in indictment? And so this lets us know right there that there is something way more that they are not telling us, and it will all come out, of course, when the jury or the grand jury, which is a bunch of white people in Mississippi, decline or decide to prosecute whoever that is that they are presenting this information about. Nevertheless, this DA that has been silent for about a month, she released a recorded video about a month ago. Now she has released this statement. And the statement is pretty much basically her defending her stonewall tactics, her lack of transparency, the basic secrecy of this whole thing. Basically, she says, look, I'm going to be quiet. Y'all ain't going to put no pressure on me to talk or do anything more than the people who control me want me to do. Just listen to this letter that is read by Hype News. Just listen.
As district attorney, I do not have the same freedom to share information publicly that private individuals may have. For example, I do not have the freedom to release letters I've sent in this investigation, discuss witness cooperation, or the testing of evidence. I do not have the freedom to identify what information is verified and what information is false. I do not have the freedom to publicly adopt a narrative and choose one fact over another, nor do I control the information released by private individuals who are not part of the investigation team. I cannot control whether private individuals release letters they have sent to me, just as I cannot prevent them from releasing letters I have sent to them. I cannot control which facts or bits of information are shared or whether that information is being shared in context, twisted, or misconstrued. Public commentary does not make the speaker transparent. Just like exercising restraint consistent with the laws does not make the process corrupt. The fact that something is said does not necessarily mean it's actually true. Prosecutors are held to the highest ethical standard under the law, as we should be. The people we serve deserve no less. I understand that a void is perceived when some are speaking publicly about a matter while others do not. I would be stepping outside the bounds of the law if I were to fill that void and share information publicly. With all of the public pressure being placed on my office, filling that void would only serve to get pressure off of me. Nolan deserves better. There is no pressure that can be placed on me and no force that is greater than the weight of the oath I took and my responsibility to the people I serve. My obligation and commitment is to present the grand jury with all the evidence collected in this case in order for them to reach a decision based on a thorough investigation, complete evidence presentation, the actual truth, and an understanding of the law. I am obligated to do so in keeping with the law and the rules of the court. On July 23rd, 2026, I released a recorded statement explaining the process and what the people of Jackson County should expect in this matter. There is nothing more to be shared at this time. I caution the public about assigning trustworthiness to things they read and see online. I also ask, rather than those individuals demanding that I step outside the bounds of the law and make public statements, we all step back and allow the process to work and allow us to do the job we were elected to do. I stand firmly on the rule of law and my ethical obligations. That is what the people of Jackson County elected me to do. I will present the grand jury with a thorough, complete, and fair investigation into the death of Nolan Wells. Now,
all right, so that is her statement. And one thing that I want to point out of what she said is just because someone says something doesn't make it true. And I hope you know that we realize that when you say something, it is well known that the district attorneys have the power to sway or dissuade a grand jury's decision, all in the way they present the evidence. And so she is basically, once again, the end all be all to whether or not this case moves forward, and what many people feel that it is a outright murder. But let's examine a little bit more of what she said and what she didn't say. The first paragraph was filled with what she can't do. I cannot do this. I can't share information. I can't do this. I can't control who releases information. I can't control which facts are being shared or this, that, and the other. Basically, if someone talks, doesn't mean that they are being true. And if someone if someone is quiet, doesn't mean that they're being corrupt. And then she goes to talk about her ethical standards and, there will be no pressure being placed on my office. Nolan deserves better. Now it's all about Nolan, right? And then she goes on to say her obligation and commitment is to present the grand jury with all the evidence connected in this case in order for them to reach a decision based on a thorough investigation, what thoroughness, complete evidence presentation, the actual truth. What is the actual truth? That is what we don't know. And, basically she continues to attack people who are pointing out inconsistencies and possible crimes in this matter. So this lady, I guess, once again, she's reacting to the pressure. And she said, well, there will be no pressure put on me. Well, once again, why is there even an investigation if you guys know that he drowned? There is no evidence that needs to be presented to the grand jury. Now, also, once again, people have pointed out that her office, the investigators and things like that are kind of trying to paint Nolan's parents in a bad light when Nolan's parents said, okay, we'll let y'all look at the phone, but we want to look at it at the same time y'all do to make sure that you guys are not doing anything unethical. And it was said that they gave them a time limit when they are available and they needed 12 hours notice. And it was like Monday through Thursday from this time to that time, just give us 12 hours notice and we'll get our people together to go down there with you and look at this phone. And it was said that, they called them like on a Friday and told them to be there in 2 hours, to look at his phone. And then they was out of town somewhere. And so they said, well, y'all are not cooperating. See, that's the narrative that they can put out. Well, they're not cooperating. They don't want to turn over the phone. So they're being, most people know that if they've already gave you a schedule and say, look, call me from this time to that time, then for you to do something of that nature lets us know that you really don't want to cooperate with them. So we, once again, have to just keep digging and keeping this eye on the case. Like they're trying to use Nolan's name in that statement. Nolan deserves better. We're trying to do this for Nolan. We're doing, like everybody loves Nolan now, but nobody loved him when he was alive to make sure he didn't drown on the island. Y'all make that make sense. Y'all see the number 919-587-7782. Thank y'all for liking, watching, sharing, and subscribing to the channel. And as always, I pray you have peace and blessings. And as the scripture says, all things that are hidden shall be revealed, and those things done in secret shall be exposed on the mountaintop.
Let's go, Rich. Let's go. You watching Telehouse Publishing, breaking news coverage. Give you the truth before fake news go hurting it.
We do have some breaking news as it relates to the Nolan Wells case. It looks like the district attorney, Angel Myers-Milcraft, has responded. Now, let me kind of break down what's happening in this case. Originally, they had agreed to do a mutual inspection of Nolan Wells' phone, but what ended up happening is the family received a letter, notice, what have you, basically stating that they have 48 hours to turn in Nolan's phone. However, Nolan's family attorney reached out and said, listen, we originally agreed to a mutual inspection of the phone and gave the district attorney all of this week to let them know when she would like to meet, provided she gave them at least a 12-hour window, of course, to travel. Obviously, they would have to get to the city of Mississippi. Well, the district attorney has released a statement, and we're going to get into it. This is what the district attorney, Angel Myers-Milcraft, stated. As district attorney, I do not have the same freedom to share information publicly that private individuals may have. Let me make this bigger. Can you guys? Yeah, okay, great. All right. Because I'm just reading it from another screen here because it's so small. Okay. For example, I do not have the freedom to release letters I've sent in this investigation, discuss witness cooperation, or the testing of evidence. So basically, she's saying whatever letter she's done, she cannot share that information. I do not have the freedom to identify what information is verified and what information is false. Okay, girl. I do not have the freedom to publicly adopt a narrative and choose one fact over another. Nor do I control the information released by private individuals who are not part of the investigative team. I cannot control whether private individuals release letters they have sent to me, just as I cannot prevent them from releasing letters I've sent to them. I feel like she's talking about the letter that she sent to the Nolan Wells family. But girl, we're not asking you to tell us anything specific, but you can speak in broad terms and you're not doing shit. And this is why this family don't trust you. I cannot control which facts or bits of information are shared or whether that information is being shared in context, twisted, or misconstrued. Public commentary does not make the speaker transparent, just like exercising restraint consistent with the law does not make the process corrupt. Okay, I'm feeling like this is some BS, okay? Let me get through this because, girl, we get updates on stories all the time. The fact that you are not being transparent tells us that you are corrupt. And that is what we believe, and that is what we're going to continue to believe. And this is why we think or feel that the FBI needs to take ownership of this case. Okay? We don't trust Angel. We don't trust Mississippi. We don't trust the process. They speak on cases all the time. Yet it's August 19th, Nolan Wells' birthday, and we still have nothing. The fact that something is said does not necessarily mean it's true. Prosecutors are held to the highest ethical standard under the law, as we should be. Yeah, prosecutors are held to high ethical regards, and you ain't doing shit. And you work with the district attorney. Angel, hopefully you're watching this, and we feel as if you're corrupt, and we want you gone. And we're going to get together to talk about how you all can get rid of Angel ass. Angel needs to be in the unemployment line. The people we serve deserve no less. It seems like they serve people, the beige folks, of course. I understand that a void is perceived when some are speaking publicly about a matter while others do not. I would be stepping outside the bounds of the law if I were to fill that void and share information publicly, with all of the public pressure being placed on my office. Filling the void would only serve to get pressure off of me. Mississippi talks about cases all the time when it involves Black people. With all of this, with all the pressure being placed on my office, filling the void will only serve to get pressure off of me. Nolan deserves better. Yeah, Nolan deserved better July the 4th. There is no pressure that can be placed on me and no force that is greater than the weight of the oath I took and my responsibility to the people I serve. So I'm glad she's saying this, because if she doesn't do anything, which I don't feel like she's doing nothing, then possibly she should be prosecuted. My obligation and commitment is to present the grand jury with all the evidence collected in this case in order for them to reach a decision based on a thorough investigation. Complete evidence presentation in actual truth and an understanding of the law. I am obligated to do so in keeping with the law and the rules of the court. On July 23rd, 2026, I released a recorded statement explaining the process and what the people of Jackson County should expect in this matter. There is nothing more to be shared at this time. I caution the public about assigning trustworthiness to things they read and see online. Oh, she has a lot of nerves, being that she ain't saying absolutely nothing. And the issue here, Angel, is you have decided to make everything private. So you are definitely, in my eyes, much corrupt, because these things are not things that the public can't have. But the fact that you decided to hold on to somebody's body as if it's yours and decided that you wanted to make his autopsy sealed, you wanted to put everything under a seal, you are protecting those white folks. I get autopsies all the time. You can request an autopsy. It's open. It's not information that is generally held confidential. So who are you actually protecting? I also ask that rather than those individuals demanding that I step outside the bounds of the law and make public statements, we all step back. No, we won't be stepping back, Miss Angel. We won't be stepping back. She's saying that she thinks we should step back. This is giving corruption to me. She's saying that people should step back and allow the process to work and allow us to do the job we were elected to do. She's right. She was elected. And I'm going to say, people, you need to send this hoe to the unemployment line. I stand firmly on the rule of law and my ethical obligations. That is what the people of Jackson County elected me to do. I will present the grand jury with a thorough, complete, and fair investigation into the death of Nolan Wells. Again, we were told that this was a drowning. So, lady, what the hell are you talking about? Now, for those of you that may have missed her first statement, I'm going to play that. Because basically what she's doing is referencing everyone back to this.
Ready for your next Gulf Coast?
Oh, no, forget about that. Wait a minute, guys. I have it right here. Just give me a second. I was going to show you guys it online, but I actually have it screen recorded. I screen record a lot of things for this reason alone, but I'm going to show you guys what her original statement was, because basically she's saying that she's going to present this information to the grand jury and that there's nothing else left for her to say. And I disagree. I mean, there's been cases, you know, in Mississippi that they have spoken about. And I feel her not speaking about this case is to protect certain individuals, because you can speak about the case without giving us specific information. So in my eyes, I don't think she's being very transparent.
As district attorney for the 19th Circuit Court District of Mississippi, I want to talk directly to the people of Jackson County. Our community is grieving the tremendous loss of Nolan Wells, who is loved and treasured by everyone. Nolan's family deserves answers, and our community deserves answers. Every death in the county, except those of natural causes and non-criminal car wrecks, are presented to your grand jury. Many people don't know that. We have handled death investigations in this manner my entire career. Nolan's case is being handled the same way, with the same care and the same commitment to the truth that we handle all death investigations. I understand the public's urgency to know what happened to Nolan, but we are not taking time for time's sake. We are taking the time required to complete the work this investigation demands. Since Nolan was reported missing, local, state, and federal law enforcement agencies have worked around the clock investigating what happened to him. Every piece of evidence must be examined. Every credible lead must be followed to its conclusion. Every witness interview must be analyzed in context of all other evidence. The pressure for answers does not change what the work requires. Our responsibility to Nolan and our community is to complete this investigation thoroughly, carefully, without compromise, supported by the evidence and worthy of the confidence of the people we serve. I also understand that many people have questions about why more information has not been released publicly. In Mississippi, the rules of professional conduct restrict the information a prosecutor can release during an investigation. Our restraint in communicating facts and evidence is not an effort to keep the truth from the public. It is an effort to protect the integrity of this investigation in the grand jury proceeding. As your district attorney, I have an ethical obligation to avoid public statements that could influence witnesses, prejudice a proceeding, or compromise the fairness of the legal process. My obligation extends to and requires me to use reasonable care to ensure investigating agencies avoid making those statements and releasing information as well. These rules exist to protect the search for the truth, not to prevent it. As divided as the discussion surrounding Nolan's death has become, I know we all want the same thing, to understand what happened to Nolan. With that being our shared goal, we must also share in the goal of protecting the integrity of how the truth is discovered. If we sacrifice the integrity of the process in effort to satisfy today's questions, we risk undermining the confidence in tomorrow's answers. When the public asks, what about this, or have they looked at that, or did they think about this? The answer is yes. Those are the same questions investigators ask. The difference is that we can't publicly discuss the evidence, the interviews, or what those efforts have uncovered while the investigation is underway. Again, our restraint in sharing details of the investigation is not a refusal to share the truth. It is our commitment to protect the process that allows the truth to be known with confidence. There's a lot of information out there, and there is a heck of a lot of misinformation out there. I simply want the community I serve to know that this investigation is being handled with the care, professionalism, and commitment to the truth that every family in Jackson County deserves. As we continue this important work, Nolan's family, his friends, and all who loved him remain in our prayers.
I don't know what to tell you all. I don't believe her. I sincerely believe that she is definitely helping to cover things up. She does not need to come out and tell us any details, which I understand that part, but you can say something. She can say something without telling us what exactly she's investigating, because you guys are saying that it is a drowning. It's been stated that it's a drowning from the governor. They said this was a drowning from the beginning. Now to shift it to tell us you're investigating, which we believe that you should have been investigating. First of all, you should have made arrest, okay? But to tell us that we should just wait until they come out with the information, are you out of your mind, okay? We're not waiting. because as we have always saw, especially in Mississippi, and it's happened in other places, you don't give a damn when it comes to Black people, okay? Especially being that the perpetrators could have been white folks, okay? And we've listened to the interviews, the things that they have stated in interviews. If we thought that they were innocent based on the different lies that they keep telling, we no longer believe that. So she could have just came out and said, we are investigating this case as a murder. What is she withholding? Because I'm curious, guys, if this is being investigated or she's submitting it to the grand jury, I'm not sure what you would tell the grand jury if someone drowned. Like, what would that presentation be like? Also, get into this. She keeps talking about how she's preparing, you know, because she want to make sure she has a full file when she presents it to the grand jury. We don't know who the grand jury is, and we don't know what this presentation is going to be like, because as long as she's been taken, somebody better be indicted. But I don't know, guys. You all have to let me know what you all think down below. Of course, like the video if you guys are just new to the channel.
And this, my friends, is what Paul Mooney called the complexion for the connection for the protection. The lady on your screen is none other than Beth Edmonston. That's right. The mother of the much maligned Bart Edmonston of Damn It Bart fame in the case of the death of Nolan Wells. And as you see in this 2021 article, it says Ocean Springs physical therapist appointed to State Board of Health. And if you scroll up a little bit, at the bottom of that picture, it says Elizabeth Edmonston of Ocean Springs has been appointed by Governor Reeves to the Mississippi State Board of Health. And in parentheses, you see Bart Edmonston. Peace and blessings. Peace and blessings, all praises due to the Most High. And here we have a definite connection, possibly to why Christine Wells Wansley received those anonymous complaints about her medical proficiencies to the Mississippi State Board of Health. And adding insult to injury, this lady was directly appointed by Governor Reeves, which means they have a close relationship and he knows her personally. She has so much connection with him or with people in power that he chose her out of everyone available to fulfill one of 11 slots on the Mississippi Board of Health. Now, just take a look at this article so we can see how and why this Beth Edmonston was the governor's direct personal choice to be on such a prestigious board. And this article was published on August the 10th, 2021, almost 5 years ago to the date. It says Governor Tate Reeves just appointed a South Mississippi physical therapist to the State Board of Health, Elizabeth Edmiston, who currently owns a Core Solution Physical Therapy in Ocean Springs, will complete Ed Langston's 6-year term on the Mississippi State Board of Health. She plans to continue to see patients while serving on the board. I am honored to serve on the Board of Health so I can be at the center of helping our state achieve the best it can in terms of the well-being of our citizens, said Edmiston. I have a passion for health and wellness and believe as a board member, I can contribute to our state's policymaking to ensure public health protection. Edmiston received her Bachelor of Health Science degree from the University of Florida in 1999. She also worked in outpatient therapy settings for the most of her career. I've been in the healthcare field for over 22 years as a physical therapist, said Edmiston. I knew as a young girl I wanted to work as an advocate and a practitioner to assist people in reaching their highest potential in terms of pain-free movement. State Health Officer Thomas Dobbs welcomed Edmiston's addition to the board. Belt is very dedicated to serving her community and in this case, her state, said Dobbs. We will all benefit from her commitment to the Board of Health. According to the Mississippi State Department of Health, the Board of Health was established in 1877 to protect and advance throughout Mississippi. It later became the Mississippi State Department of Health in 1982. They are involved in operations that include health promotion and planning. So, this physical therapist who owns, a physical therapist company and also is married to Bart Edmiston, who also attended the University of Florida, I think. That is when he became a famed kicker, like his son, Bart Edmiston Jr., who was also a highly touted college football kicker. And we all know since his name emerged on that infamous Cito call that a lot of people suspect Bart may have something to do with Nolan's death because they said, damn it, Bart. Now, damn it was supposed to be, Bart was supposed to be the guy who towed the sinking boat that a lot of people feel Nolan was or was not on. Nevertheless, when it came out and scrutiny began to fulfill the airways concerning Bart, they lawyered up. They said, his father said, we're suing everybody. They instantly came to the defense, and it was almost as if the state of Mississippi rallied behind this Bart guy, as well as the other rich white boys with high connections in high society. Now, keep in mind, Dr. Bart Edmiston Sr. is also a doctor of pain medication or psychotropic drugs, as Dr. Umar would say. And his wife is a physical therapist who just so happened to be on the Mississippi State Board. Now, we all know a few weeks ago, Christine Wansley received some anonymous complaints about her services in her healthcare profession as well. Many people think that there was a direct warning to her to sort of keep quiet and stop ruffling feathers concerning what many people believe the murder of her son. And so we have here a high-profile family, once again, with connections to Governor Tate Reeves. Everybody know Governor Tate Reeves was, also found to have some racist proclivities from days of old. But this explains why the Mississippi State, some people even said that this governor has recently attacked Nancy Grace for coverage on this case. I don't know how true that is because, both of them have the complexion for the protection for the connection. Nevertheless, I had to see because she was appointed in 2021. I had to see today, is she still on the Mississippi State Board of Health? And just take a look at their website with me to see for yourself. And here we have the Mississippi State Board of Health. Frederick Barnett Carlton Jr., MD, location Oxford. James Pat Cheney, MD, chairman. John Davis, MD, vice chairman. And fourth
On your list, there she is, Miss Ocean Springs, Beth Edmiston, PT, that I think stands for physical therapist, or it could stand for protected therapist. Here we have service from July 14, 2021, and her term does not end until June 30th, 2027, which means basically she is still serving on that board. Now let's go down a little bit further. Let's see some other members: Leanne Griffin, Lucius Lampton, Jim Perry, Connie Bear Thomas. There we go. We have one little speck of chocolate in the sea of whiteness. So out of the 11 members of the Mississippi State Board of Health, only one is a person of color. Now, you know, Mississippi has the largest population. I don't know if it's by population or by percentage, but they have the largest population of Black people in any state in America. So why we only have one person of color on the board? Well, we all know it's Mississippi, and this is how Mississippi does. And so right now we see once again a very high connection. Bart Edmiston Jr.'s mother was directly appointed to the Mississippi State Board of Health by the governor, which means, you know, they've had some talks, they've had some dealings. So if by chance that Bart was anyway involved in this mysterious death of Nolan, I'm pretty sure that the governor of the state, Tate Reeves, will pull out every stop possible. He will pull every string. He will manipulate every agency in the state and above the state to ensure that Miss Edmiston's son doesn't go to jail. What do y'all think? Y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments. Y'all see the number 919-587-7772. Thank y'all for liking, watching, sharing, and subscribing to the channel. And as always, I pray you have peace and blessings. And as the scripture says, all things that are hidden shall be revealed.
It's starting to look like help has arrived. That's right. The National Association of Advancement for Colored People, aka NAACP, have stepped in the building. Not only that, we got some alleged leaked messages from Miss Christine Wansley speaking with Warren, and we about to get into these TikTok videos, y'all. Y'all know how we do it. Make sure y'all hit that like button. Make sure y'all hit that hype, and make sure y'all subscribing. Check this out, y'all.
So I have another major development in the Nolan Wells case to tell you about. The NAACP is officially joining the legal team representing Nolan Wells' family. Its Office of General Counsel will work alongside Ben Crump. They'll bring more legal muscle and investigative resources into this case. And the NAACP president, Derek Johnson, was exclusively on our show on Monday night, just after the announcement, talking about exactly why they're stepping in. Because let's be real for a moment. Nolan's parents have been fighting for answers for more than a month. They've asked for federal help. They pushed for more transparency. And they're ready this week for the joint forensic examination of Nolan's cell phone. So now the NAACP is in the room too. More lawyers, more resources, more pressure. And maybe that's what it's going to take Nolan went to Horn Island with his friends. They came home. He did not. His parents want answers. And if you want to hear exactly what Derek Johnson told us, check out Monday Nights Live.
Well, we have some more breaking news, and I'm sure it's going to burn quite a you devils right on up. The NAACP's Office of General Counsel is joining the legal team focused on the death of Nolan Wells.
That's what I'm talking about. Come on now. Come on, let's go. Let's go.
Because truth, justice, and accountability cannot wait. Nolan's family deserves answers, and we will continue fighting to ensure that no Black life is ever overlooked, dismissed, or denied thorough justice. Drawing on the association's long history of pushing for full and fair investigation when Black lives are lost under suspicious circumstances, we will bring additional investigation and legal resources to bear and ensure that no stone is left unturned and the quest for truth and accountability shall prevail in the death of Nolan Wells' case and to his family. Boom.
Right.
There has been this narrative that was put out there, and I think they're trying to knock it down, which I believe was unfairly put out, saying that the family was somehow stonewalling investigators. But according to the letter, if you read the letter that they released this morning, they said, this is exactly what we agreed upon in July. And so, you know, I don't understand why this information has been put out there. And that's all part of the investigation. What do you make of that?
There's more time been spent on deflecting the fact that there has not been a thorough investigation that the public have trust and believe in. If there's been a thorough investigation, great. If there's a grand jury where information is going to be provided, that's great. But at this juncture, local officials should not be deflecting what's really taking place. We're talking about a state with a history of not valuing African-American life. We're talking about a state that spent more time worried about the perception of its past as opposed to reconciling the current reality and doing what's necessary. A child never returned home. A child got on a boat with a group of friends. A child phone came back with a friend, and that child, the next time we see the child, he's unalive. There are some questions that need to be answered. We have a sheriff who made assumptions before an investigation was done based on the words of the individuals that child was with. This should not be the case. There needs to be a complete thorough investigation.
How does the NAACP getting involved help?
Well, it broadens the ability of individuals who are receiving information. We have a bigger net. I live in Mississippi, so there are some deep relationships there. You have the former head of the Department of Justice and Rights Division with experience in this background and deep contacts. So it allowed us, along with the Trump team, to try to assist the family in getting the necessary answers. Because apparently the state of Mississippi and local officials have not been as transparent as one would have liked them to be, or they're simply doing things that's out of the view and has lost the confidence of not only the family, but that community who has been affected.
See, when they was preparing and they was at their little dinner table with their paperwork, with their times and dates and trying to figure out everything, they was only preparing for Mississippi. They wasn't preparing for this to get out to the world. Now, it seems like the Most High is starting to answer our prayers. Now, what I'm going to ask y'all is to keep on praying. This ain't nothing, y'all, because I believe God is building up a way bigger picture to drop that bombshell I was talking about. Ooh. Somebody in trouble.
Well, we actually have proof that Grandpa Jerry was actually on Horns Island as well, which makes sense why he was able to call the captain, because he physically was watching it. Now, who was Wyatt on the phone with? Well, we know he was on the phone with Tito Call, but let me show you Grandpa Jerry.
White-haired old man. Look, I just want you.
Got him. I'm telling you, that bombshell coming. That bombshell is coming, y'all. It's coming.
And she also gave us a little specialty on Wyatt. And Now, I thank her for that treat because we all been asking the same question. Where is Wyatt? Why haven't we heard from Wyatt? Where are his boats that one we know was missing from the MDMR report? We just have no information, no nothing on him. He is seemingly in the dark, like he's just disappeared somewhere. So where is he? And why haven't we heard from him? Just asking. My opinions, just asking. And thank you, Miss Trina. Thank you, Queen. I appreciate you.
Thank you, whoever you is. Lead by example, because it's about to be more coming out. I ain't gonna get too excited.
Wait, text messages were just released between Nolan's mom and Warren that can answer a lot of questions. And I'm gonna go through these text messages one by one. You tell me, does it look like somebody like Warren is trying to hide something, or does it look like he's being a true friend? Now, first of all, I thought that Nolan's dad showed up unannounced as the way, Warren and them told the story. Here's a text message, July 5th, 2 a.m. Nolan's dad is out the house to pick up the key. Remember, he was trying to get the key from Jax. He said Jax couldn't find it, or it was taking forever. Then somebody else found it, and he didn't trust Jax after that. So then here's the next one. That day in the afternoon, hey, Warren, what kind of sunglasses did Nolan wear? I'm pretty sure Ray-Bans, Mrs. Christine. This is Warren. Then Warren says, hey, Mrs. Christine, just wanted to check in. We went out this morning to look, and I've been on and off the phone with Jackson County Sheriff's Office today. If you need anything at all, please don't hesitate to reach out. She says, thank you. Warren says, we are all praying for your family. We appreciate it. Then it gets deeper. Now, right here, she asked Warren what boat he was on or what boat Nolan was on. He says, Nolan went out on the 22 Triton offshore, and I was on the 24 tie line. I ain't heard much about the 24 tie line. On the way out, we were on separate boats. I went back on the Triton DMR, and the sheriff's office has all this information. Then if you look again, Monday, July 6th, 1:37 p.m., hey, Warren, can you collect any of Nolan's items left at Jack's house? So it was still items after her father went there? I don't know. Then here's Warren again. Good morning, Miss Christine. I just wanted to let you know that my family and I have been praying for you and your family. Nolan was one of my best friends since we were in 8th grade together. You and Mr. Elmore raised one of the best men I've ever met. I wish I could be there today, but I would never want to take the attention off of your family and Nolan and be a distraction. Thank you for being the best parents that Nolan could have had. This was the day of the funeral, that Monday. Now, these are cut off. I want to know the full message up here, because this is where it seemed like it got a little spicy. It appears Miss Christine, Nolan's mom, said exactly where you saw him last. I'm sorry I am asking you to repeat this. 3 p.m. West Tip, north side of Horn Island. Where did you guys launch for him? He sent the location. And I don't know why this is blurred out. We launched the boats yesterday evening and left from here this morning. As the Wells family searches for answers and Warren and them trying to say that they had nothing to do with it and don't know anything, we are trying to find out what is true. But we do know a lot has been misinformed, a lot of misinformation, and I don't like it.
So the last time you seen Nolan was at 3 p.m. Okay. And you said you left at what, 4:30, something like that? Okay. So who in the hell told Nolan to get on the boat?
Nolan Wells update. I'm so perplexed. I'm so confused. Is anybody else out there in TikTok world confused just like I'm confused? Because when did Nolan's family become the people who weren't part of the investigation? What? This family has gone through utter hell for the last 6 weeks plus. They've lost their son. Have zero answers. And somehow this has been perpetuated as if what is going on? because the mom won't turn over the phone while she was on vacation, and because she specifically requested there be a third party mediator because of so many different suspicious circumstances behind her son's death. And y'all are perpetuating the narrative that she's non-compliant? I'm so confused. She said she'd give up the phone. She was on vacation. How do you formulate and change the narrative as the mom is guilty of hindering justice? Why would she be guilty? She wants answers. This is so preposterous and so far gone that it's absurd. It's absurd. My heart goes out to the Wells family, Nolan Wells's mom, Christine Walmsley Wells, and the father and the other siblings that are still remaining on Earth that have to still endure the social media rhetoric and BS. This woman has been through hell. Her job has been attacked. Her character has been attacked. This is completely outrageous that anyone would think that continuing to spin this narrative and cause this woman any more grief is absurd.
Christine, all I'm going to say is keep your eyes on that phone. Because apparently the whole state of Mississippi want to get a hold of that phone, because we already know them boys, folks are in the higher ups in that government. So they probably know a good bit of people that want to get a hold of that phone and play in your face. So if everybody cool, I keep my eyes on it, or got some real people you can trust to keep your eyes on that phone. Because if they all want a hold of it, it's apparently there's still something on that phone that's still gonna open this wide open. They have a smoking gun. And that's what's gonna give it up even more. The jig's already up, but it's gonna be more oil in the fire. You just watch.
Y'all get in the comments. Y'all let me know what y'all think about the NAACP. Do y'all think there's somebody in the organization might be compromised? I don't know. I just don't trust nobody. Also, what do you think about the text messages between Miss Christine Wansley and Warren? Do you think that his text messages seem like he was genuine? Do you think he's really concerned? Now, I'm not saying nobody's guilty of anything. I'm just saying I don't trust no damn body. How do y'all think that this phone examination is going to turn out? I hope they got some type of security with them, because we can't let nobody in doing no underhanded shit. Again, I'm just saying, I don't trust nobody. Y'all got way too many damn red flags out there, and we need security when y'all looking at the phone. We need to look at everybody's hands. Don't nobody need to snatch no chips, no nothing. But again, I ain't gonna get too excited about nothing. I feel as though it's the optics of the NAACP. You know, make people feel like, look, we can't get away with messing with these people. I remember somebody said, yeah, what is marching gonna do? It's the optics. Is letting people know that we have numbers. The weapons of our warfare are not carnal. For those people that are talking about going against somebody, how you gonna go against somebody who makes the weapons? Any weapon you talking about getting, they make them. So miss me with all of that. Our power is with the Most High. And do you know what the Most High can do? He can cause earthquakes. He can cause tornadoes. He can cause holes in the ground. That's the type of power I like. But y'all get in the comment section. Y'all let me know what y'all think, man. Big Kesh signing out. Gone, y'all.
So in the wake of all of these modern day lynchings with authorities, investigators, medical examiners, all ruling no foul play and self-unalivement, many people like myself refuse to believe the narrative because we know the history of this country. But when Black people say it, it's often taken with a grain of salt. So to the public and to the white constituency, let's hear it from a member of the Caucasian race on the absurdity to continue to believe that Black people are doing things like this to themselves. Just listen.
Hey, white people, when are we going to start protecting Black people? I'm being so serious because that's the 5th lynching in 2 months that they've called no foul play. Tasia was hung up so high that they needed a fire truck to get her down. And they're saying no foul play. I can't be crying. Gerard was hung behind a police station. No foul play. Tanya hung at a park. No foul play. Juliana hung at a church. No foul play. Soraya hung behind a Dollar Tree. No foul play. Nolan Wells. No foul play. Trey Reed. No foul play. Kyle Basinga. No foul play. Do you know a lot of Black people that love playing with knots? I mean, so do you know Black people that fucking play with ropes and climb trees? We're going to need to start getting violent for our Black brothers and sisters. And I mean like really violent. Like I'm not talking about just like... Where are you? Tasia's body's going to the same medical examiner that Nolan Wells' family's still fighting. That Trey Reed's family's still fighting. It's a system designed to bury these kids while it makes their families, go to these trials that aren't even real. While it lets people like Jesse, a kid who raped 2 girls, he broke one of their necks. His mom heard them in the room, and he didn't spend 1 day in jail. He's going to LSU. Nothing happened to him. It's just like Bart. His dad's like a football guy. They're rich as hell. And, did you know that Nolan Wells' best friends, obviously the ones who killed him, are using Trump's defense attorney? For a drowning, right? Because they're withholding and that's why they were withholding the information in the autopsy, giving them enough time to go through all this and let them know what they had on them so they could prepare. Do you understand that this is the thing that the South does over and over and over again at this point? I'm just begging white people at this point because I don't even know what else. I don't know what else to do. They need a race war before they need a world war. That's how this works. They need a reaction, but it has to be from us. It has to be from us this time, okay? They just showed us. They're showing us the nastiest shit we've ever seen. They showed us 3 teenage girls that just invited another teenage girl over who had epilepsy, who was pregnant, and they drugged her, and then they planned on murdering her and then burying her. But if she could defend herself like Karmelo Anthony, they wouldn't start that trial until there was an all-white jury. There'd be no justice. And if she can't defend herself, they're going to treat her like Cyrus Carmack Belton, and then Rick Child's just going to get to walk. The good old days are not coming back, okay? We will make sure of it. I just need to know who my allies are. I need to know where y'all are at because this is going to get a lot worse before it gets better. It just is, and we see it. This is happening every week. We're being reminded of this shit, okay? So have a nice day. This is just a chill call to violence. Just a chill call. No, relax, algorithms. Remember, white people are not scary. We only go after women and children. That's it. Historically, we only kill women and children. We do not go after men because we'd get our asses kicked. So just stay armed and aim high. Okay, have a good day. Hey, white people, when are we going to start?
And despite the sarcasm, everything that he said was spot on point. All of these instances, Tasia Fortune, I didn't know she was hung that high, that they need a fire truck to get her down. And he left out a few. Justice James down there in Atlanta. The guy, Jared Jackson, I think, up in Michigan. Cal Basinga, Trey Reed. The latest cover-up, the guy in Charlotte, Juliana Nzita, the Soraya Henderson. All of these names have one thing in common, that they have been found in a historical method of terrorization that one group did to another. And his masterful analogy of showing the Boy Scouts who love to play with knots, who love to play with ropes, who love to climb trees. That's not really our thing. So where is this, once again, as I asked, this black Zumba knot tying, rope throwing over trees class that somehow I didn't get the memo to as a child. And, I like the fact that, once again, a lot of white people are speaking out, once again, about the absurdity of these things being done by each other. And it's going to, once again, take, some of the white allies to be vigilant, to be just as violent against the violence that is occurring as the perpetrators of the violence or the violators who are doing these acts to Black people. And so we are, once again, somebody said, well, it looks like we are living in the 60s. The 60s never left. From what I've been seeing in my 48 years of living, I don't see nothing that has changed between then and my lifetime and now. Because what I see is the current playbook that he said they do over and over and over and over again. Okay, we're going to let these all-white grand jury handle it. We're going to let this all-white medical examiner, who once again is examining Nolan Wells and a few more people. They're turning these bodies over to them, and they are part of the system. And people don't understand, somebody pointed this out to me the other day, that white women too were part of it, because they said, well, who do you think was making the robes? And I said, wow, because they was making those robes knowing what was going to be done in those robes. And there are so many offshoots of the Klan organizations with different names, but they are offshoot Klan organizations that spurned from the historical terrorizing group. And so for people to say, once again, that people are doing this to themselves is just asinine to me. There is only one group of people who have done that in that manner to another group of people, and that group of people are Caucasians. And notice how you rarely see a Caucasian who decides to delete themselves in that manner. It's only us. So shout out to my white brother for bringing things to light from a white perspective and challenging his own white counterparts to, let's get violent against violence. But y'all let me know what y'all think about this video in the comments. Y'all see the number 919-587-77.
For answers in Mississippi after a 29-year-old mother of four was found dead, hanging from a tree.
We're going to press this as far as we can press it until she gets justice.
Tasia Fortune's body was discovered last week behind a vacant house in Jackson. The family telling ABC News the circumstances surrounding her death do not add up.
Tasia loved living life. Like, there's no way that she took her own life.
Hi, I'm Suri Crow, and thanks for joining me. Tasia Fortune's death is one more in a growing list of suspicious Black deaths in the South, and specifically in Mississippi, which is the state that leads the South with the highest number of lynchings. Tasia was a young mother of four, and she was found hanging from a tree on August 3rd in Jackson, Mississippi. The fire department had to use their hook and ladder truck to get her body down. A local council member is now asking for the U.S. attorney in that region to investigate Fortune's death.
Concerned about a hanging that took place in Jackson, Mississippi. Hanging is an activity, a crime that should never be an issue of being accepted by the public. Hanging must never be an acceptable behavior. Whether you're talking about someone white, hanging somebody black, hanging somebody white, or somebody black hanging somebody black. It's wrong. It's bad. We sent a letter to the U.S. Attorney's Office asking for help to make sure we catch and convict the person or persons involved with hanging a young lady in Jackson, Mississippi.
I have reached out to the Mississippi Medical Examiner's Office, that of Dr. Stacy Turner. She is the same ME who completed the autopsy of 18-year-old Nolan Wells, who disappeared on a boat trip while he was with white friends to Mississippi's Horn Island over the 4th of July holiday. Nolan Wells' autopsy results are complete, but they are sealed pending a grand jury investigation. I asked about cause and manner of death for misfortune, and I have also reached out to the Jackson, Mississippi Police Department several times. In both of those instances, I was told this is an ongoing investigation. And I even called the detective who was investigating Tasia Fortune's death, and I have not heard back from him yet. There are reports that one of Miss Fortune's children's father, a guy by the name of Terrence Anderson, may be a person of interest in her death, but I have not been able to confirm that either.
They have not named any suspects and declined to comment on local reports that they questioned the father of one of Fortune's children about the death. Court records show Terrence Anderson, who's behind bars on an unrelated weapons charge, lives on the same street block where Fortune's body was found.
No one's trying blaming Ted or anything like that. You know, we just want answers.
Detectives testified in court that Anderson did admit to arguing with Tasia shortly before her death, but he apparently denies any involvement in her death. Now, about those two other hangings, 21-year-old Trey Reed was discovered hanging from a tree on the Mississippi Delta State University campus last September. And hours later, Corey Zucaitis, a white 35-year-old houseless man whose dog had been taken from him by the local authorities, his beloved dog, which I just think is horrible. He was found hanging in a tree in the nearby woods. Both of these cases were also ruled suicide by the Mississippi State ME, once again, Dr. Stacy Turner. Trey Reed's family disputes those findings. His mother says that there were other signs of trauma on Trey's body, and they had a second independent autopsy conducted. And after hiring Ben Crump as their attorney, they recently have put out a statement saying that they are still waiting for answers from that independent autopsy via Ben Crump's office. And they haven't heard anything from Mr. Crump's office in months, saying that the lack of communication has only deepened their pain and confusion. And there's the whole statement right there if you want to read it. Reed's friends did report that he was acting out shortly before his death, talking to himself, behaving strangely, and his girlfriend reportedly said that he had been struggling emotionally. Then there's this story of Jackson, Mississippi teen, 15-year-old Chloe McDonald.
I had dreams, you know, and unfortunately, she didn't get to complete her test on her dreams.
Family members say Chloe loved fashion, art, and drawing, and she hopes to one day become a designer.
She designed these boots. Very talented.
Imagine calling detectives, calling the morgue, and getting no answers. That's what Chloe McDonald's mother lived through. The state's top public safety official says the system worked, but admits families deserve better communication.
16 days is a long time, I know, to wait for that kind of answer. But again, we want to make sure that we get that right.
July 20th, Capitol Police found a 15-year-old's body at Shepherd Brothers Park. August 5th, investigators told the family it was Chloe McDonald. 16 days of silence. In Mississippi, DNA confirmation is required before a family is notified. Commissioner Sean Tyndall says that process typically takes 30 to 90 days.
So we want to make sure that when we notify a family, it is in fact their loved one. I mean, as you can imagine, it would be a disastrous situation if we got that wrong.
Chloe's mother, Nacomia Quinn, gave detectives photos. Still, DNA was required. And Tyndall says the call to the family should have come from local officials, not the state.
There is an ongoing investigation in that case, too. And in the midst of the now viral coverage of Nolan Wells' death investigation, many people are calling out what they perceive to be the negligence in these investigations and even downright cover-ups of Black deaths. There is a change.org petition circulating calling for the removal of Dr. Stacey Turner's medical license because many in the Black community simply do not trust her in determining manner of death and cause of death in these investigations. And this is all happening as Nolan Wells' friends have now lawyered up with a former Trump attorney, Andrew Palcic, who represented Trump in defamation cases. In any event, Warren Hudson, Jack Spatalo, Morgan Seymour have set up a Give, Send, Go to raise funds for their so-called defense against what they are calling targeted attacks against them in the aftermath of Nolan's death. And Nolan's death remains under investigation. And just now, Nolan's family, along with their attorney, Ben Crump, and Georgia Democratic Representative Lucy McBath, who is a member of the Congressional Black Caucus, are calling on the feds to get involved in Nolan's death investigation.
As a member of the Congressional Black Caucus, I'm the second vice chair of the Congressional Black Caucus. We are demanding a full federal investigation. Kash Patel, we're demanding a full federal investigation as to what has actually happened to Nolan Wells. We want to make sure that every stone is unturned because his life matters. All of our children's and our families' lives matter. And we must fight back. We must stand up. And we must demand accountability for this family's loss.
And as I mentioned, once the sheriff's office is done with their investigation in Pascagoula County there, they will turn over the results to a grand jury. And, so just to put this, to wrap it all up, some of these cases, not Nolan Wells, but some of them could well have been suicide. Personally, I find it very odd that somebody would decide to die by suicide by hanging themselves from a tree. And I've just given you just a few cases. There are several of these cases of Black people who have been found hanging from a tree, which smacks of lynching, smacks of KKK activity in the horrible and hideous history of the South. Like, it's still happening. But what people in the Black community are asking for and what they deserve are thorough investigations of these deaths. And it does seem odd to me that Trey Reed and Corey Zukaitis were both found hanging from a tree within hours of each other. Like, that just seems more than coincidental to me, regardless of whether they were both distraught or having emotional problems. I don't know, but that just seems like it bears looking into. Instead of just like, we're shutting the book, suicide. And in the other cases, these people deserve to have sheriff's deputies, sheriff's departments, and police departments investigate suspicious deaths every bit as much as they would if a young, white, blonde college co-ed disappeared under suspicious circumstances. You hear what I'm saying? That's what they deserve. When I see where police departments and sheriff's departments spend so much of their time, which is harassing people of color, just targeting them, pulling them out of cars, doing all kinds of horrible things. I mean, police brutality is a real thing in America. It's abysmal. It's horrible. There's a reason that so many people do not like police because of the way they behave. Maybe spend some of that energy doing right by people, but there's a lot of cleaning up that needs to be done amongst our nation's police, and that is my opinion. But they all deserve to have investigations that are done thoroughly. And that's all that's all Nolan Wells family is asking for. That's all the Trey Reed's family is asking for. And you heard the interviews that I just played for you. These people just want justice. They're not accusing any one particular person of doing something. They just want thorough investigations, and that's what they deserve. All the mercy and grace and peace out to these grieving families, to all of them.
Want to stay plugged in?
Shalom, family. Good to see everyone. Hope you're doing well. I didn't come on early because I was trying to wait to see what the outcome was going to be for Karmelo Anthony because I was watching it. And man, they said it was a lot of loud cheering in the streets over there in Texas. And he, his attorneys got the other judge to recuse himself. And I was hoping he wouldn't have to go back in front of that judge again, because we know they fixed that entire trial. Come on. And that judge was more than happy to go public and run his mouth and making these claims like he did the right thing and all this stuff. So anyway, there will be a different judge presiding over his case. So, and y'all, this happened today, and today is also, from what I understand, Nolan Wells' birthday. That's why if you go out, you're seeing, some avatars of Nolan and Karmelo together in these avatars that people are putting out, because Nolan, had he lived, he would have been 19 years old today. So, nothing happens by chance, y'all. So hopefully they'll be able to get a whole new trial for him, because we know what happened. They wouldn't even allow his self-defense to be included in the last case that was on trial. And, and his attorney, that white attorney he had, purposely threw the case, and it was just one big mess. And then he got sentenced for first-degree murder, and nothing that happened even equates to first-degree murder. Had Austin minded his own business, he would still be here today. And that's the bottom line. So, yeah, there's a lot of people happy about this, and they're real optimistic that, he'll get to go home. And I think they're going to let him bond out. I do. I think, from what I understand, they're moving him to back to the first prison he was in, and they believe he may be able to bond out. So we shall see. It's probably the first piece of positive news in his entire case. So y'all, Repentant Judah, thank you so much for the 10 jewels gold coin. Thank you for your support for my channel. Thank you. All right, y'all. Let's see here. Share. Okay, just a reminder, the goat milk shampoo and leave-in conditioner is still 40% off all this week on Etsy. I see quite a few people grabbed it up yesterday, but I still have plenty left. So you can get it for 40% off, that in the leave-in. So y'all, let's get to the videos. All right. Good. They got Judge Roach off of the case, and he sure lives up to his name, don't he? Roach. All right. Please give me a 1 if you can see my screen. Angela Patterson, thank you so much for the super chat. Free Mellow. I absolutely agree with you. Thank you for your support for my channel. Yes, Free Mellow. Thank you for the ones, everybody.
Breaking news, y'all. Judge John Roach has been recused from Karmelo Anthony's post-trial proceeding. I know, y'all, I thought it wasn't going to happen, especially in Collin County. But the visiting judge, Sid Harrell, he heard arguments on why Judge John Roach should be recused, as Karmelo's team felt like he could not be impartial. They're making comments publicly following Karmelo's conviction. Remember, in his little interview, he said he felt like the jury got it right, referred to Karmelo Anthony as a nice young man who committed a crime. And the defense argued that those statements created an appearance that Judge John Roach had already had his conviction down pat for Karmelo, especially now that Karmelo and his team are looking for a new trial. Now, let me make something very clear. This does not overturn Karmelo Anthony's conviction. It does not automatically give him a new trial. Now, what that does mean is Judge John Roach will not be in attendance if Karmelo Anthony manages to get a new trial tomorrow. Yes, tomorrow, the same time, 9 a.m., his team will be arguing for him to get a new trial. So today's ruling is step 1. Tomorrow is when it really gets real. Yes, I'm wearing purple. And also, I want to wish Nolan Wells a happy birthday. You should be here to celebrate your 19th birthday. Today is a very up and down emotional day for these 2 young Black men. Let's hope tomorrow is way better.
Secret Service Sam here with the Karmelo Anthony update, and this is a big one. Judge John Roach has been recused. That means that he will no longer preside over Karmelo Anthony's future and over this case. They will be assigning a new judge immediately for and then hoping to get a new trial for Karmelo Anthony. So this is a huge update. You know how it goes in Collin County. They were trying to keep Karmelo in prison for the 35 years, but he is getting a new trial. There are reports that people are clapping and cheering outside the court building. Now, we're not sure what will happen, but what we do know will hopefully happen is that he will get a fair trial this time. Obviously, what happened is tragic, but the law needs to apply to everyone equally. And Judge John Roach, he went on TV bragging, he got it right, he got it right. Well, no, he got it wrong. It was unconstitutional, is what they have figured out. And so he has been recused, and we will get a new judge, and that is great news for Karmelo. Secret Service Sam out, Samson for president of the world.
There's been a breaking update in the Karmelo Anthony case, and that is the original judge has been recused. This is being reported by Teslyn Figaro, who is clerking on the case with the Ben Crump team. And according to her, the very next step is a motion for a new trial. This is absolutely groundbreaking. If you remember, Karmelo Anthony was found guilty, even though his claim was self-defense, of unaliving a person at a sporting event in Frisco, Texas, and he was eventually sentenced to 35 years in prison. That original judge has now been recused due to some statements he made in the public, and the next step is a motion for a new trial. Stay tuned for more. I'll keep you updated on all the things related to this case and how they impact our mental health.
Karmelo Anthony's judge, Roach, is set to recuse himself. Now, finally, maybe Karmelo can get a decent trial, all right? It's pandemonium going on outside the courtroom. People got on their purple. Women, men, people are screaming, jumping for joy. One old man came out that thing with the case. I said, go on and get. I said, Judge Roach, go on and get. I said, now get. Now step. I said, Joe, they're in their bag out there. But what do you think about this, man? Judge Roach being recused from the trial, being a part of any procedures at all, because he was biased, especially when he did his interview on TV, on the news. He's wilding. But do you think that this is good grounds that Karmelo can't get an appeal? He can get a bond. Maybe he can even get a new trial. What do you think? Get in the comments now and let me know what you're thinking, man.
Child, when I woke up this morning, I felt good. Yes, I was sad that today is Nolan's birthday and he is no longer here. But I take things like this as a sign. Today is Nolan's birthday. Today is Karmelo Anthony's first court date. You see where I'm going with it? God is working in Karmelo Anthony's favor. Nolan is working in Karmelo Anthony's favor. Our ancestors is working in Karmelo Anthony's favor. Today, Karmelo Anthony had his first court date, August the 19th, to see if Judge Roach can be removed as the judge in his case, in his trial. Judge Roach has been recused. Yes! Baby, let's go, baby. This is a step in the right direction. Yes! Get him gone. Get him the fuck on. Get to stepping, Judge Roach. You ain't gotta go, but you gotta get the fuck up out of here. Yeah! I don't know about y'all, but I am happy as hell. Yes, let's go. Let's get it. He out of there. Out of there.
I just found out the judge was recused. The Karmelo Anthony judge, he's not going to be there. They got the new trial. They got the recusal. That judge is gone. I knew he was biased. They wouldn't have done it if he wasn't biased. I knew something was going on. That judge didn't want to recuse himself, but we got him recused. We the people. Justice for Karmelo.
We are following some breaking news out of Texas, where a judge has granted a request to recuse the judge involved in the Karmelo Anthony trial. A little bit more information here from our Fox 4 Dallas reporter, Stephen Dial, who was inside the courtroom when this decision was announced, stating that a Collin County judge has granted a request to recuse Karmelo Anthony, trial judge, from any further appeal proceedings. A new legal team for Anthony said days after the verdict, Judge Roach showed bias. Now, a new judge will be assigned to hear a motion for a new trial.
Breaking news, MAGAs and gentlemen, Karmelo Anthony has been officially transferred back to Collin County, Survival, where he'll be granted a new judge and granted a new trial during survival, ladies and gentlemen. And once he get granted a new trial, this means that it starts all the way back to the beginning. So he will be granted bail as well, pure survival. And rest in peace to Austin Metcalf. I wish this didn't happen for neither one of these two young men. Even Jeff Metcalf said that they both was in the wrong during survival. You know what I'm saying? So like I said, Karmelo Anthony, new judge, new trial is about to go down tomorrow during survival.
As we all know, Karmelo Anthony was back in court this morning with a case to get Judge Roach recused off of his case. And thanks be to God, Judge Roach has just been recused from the Karmelo Anthony's case. I did a live this morning, and all the naysayers that was in my live, I'm here to tell you, like I told you this morning, Karmelo Anthony and Nolan Wells' case did not come together on the same day for no reason. These two cases will definitely get justice. And here's a clip of Nick at Night on YouTube showing us at the courtroom in Collin County when they came with the verdict. Take a look at this clip.
All right, hey guys, we are outside of Collin County. Judge Roach has just been recused off of the case. So it was man, I don't even know how to describe the intense moment in the courtroom when they said that he will be removed off of the case. Everybody came out shouting. Everybody came out. Everybody's coming out right now. So there is another hearing tomorrow. He has been recused off of this case. Okay, you are hearing it here first. Reporting live from Collin County, Judge Roach has been recused. He is no longer going to be the judge over Karmelo. We got one more day tomorrow, but you can see the atmosphere out here. Let me show you guys. How you feeling, sis? How you feeling? Pretty girl, how you feeling? Oh man. Yes, yes.
Karmelo Anthony has just been granted the motion to have Judge Roach recused. As I stated before, and I'll state it again, Karmelo Anthony and Nolan Wells' case did not come together on the same day. Today is would have been Nolan Wells' 19th birthday. Today, Karmelo Anthony sits in Collin County Jail and was just granted the motion to have Judge Roach recused. Tomorrow is his motion for a new trial. When I say God is in the midst and God is trying to show us justice will be served. Drop down in the comments how you feel about this new verdict. Judge Roach is officially off Karmelo Anthony's case.
All right. Well, apparently a lot of people are feeling good about that. And I certainly do understand. You know, when you really think about it, Karmelo and Nolan were around the same age. You know, very young men and had bright futures ahead until all of these things happened. So, y'all, this has been an uneventful day. So, y'all, let's see here. PM 2290, thank you for the super chat. Free Mellow. The prophecy is already set, and the Most High will protect our children and guide us in these end days. Let us stay aware and alert and keep our prayers. B1 and salute. Lisa, thank you as always. And thank you so much for your support from my channel. I deeply appreciate it. And thank you again for the 10 jewels gold coin. Thank you for your support. Angela Patterson, thank you for the super chat. Save kid from drowning, yet Mello treated inhumane. Yes, let's hope now that he got this new legal team that they can turn this whole thing around. That is the purpose of having them. So, you know, it's not everything, but it's definitely a step in the right direction. Angela Patterson, thank you again for the super chat. Never allow the world to hear Mello voice. Right? Yeah. So anyway, y'all, thank you so much, Angela.
No filters.
So it's on the Joe Budden podcast. And Michael Hill made a statement that I had to respond to. This person is Sydney Starr. Sydney Starr, Zeus Network. She is a reality TV star. Okay? Sydney Starr. And she also recently got arrested for doing something with an underage boy. With a child. Okay, that's what it was. Now, Sydney Starr is trans. Okay? I think this is a trans woman. Okay? I think that's what this is. And the whole segment on the Joe Budden podcast was about Mark Lamont Hill. It was weird. It was like he was defending the child toucher because people misgendered her or something. And somebody called her a guy or something. And he was like, calling a trans person misgendering someone is just like calling them the N-word. And that's what pissed me off. Trans woman reality TV star arrested and charged after admitting to performing on 14-year-old boys. So she admitted. So it's not alleged. She did the shit. Okay? The problem I have with Mark Lamont Hill is the same problem I have with all these intellectual black professors, right? These intellectual hyper-liberal or socialists or whatever I don't even know this. I don't know exactly what his ideology is. I thought he was not a Democrat, but now it's like he's worse than a Democrat, right? Mark Lamont Hill is just one of these people that's looking for a new Mark Lamont Hill to die on for some other cause other than us. And repeatedly uses black people to make his points. Now, if you got a trans woman who's getting misgendered, that is not the same as calling a black person the N-word. Because she's already the N-word. She's black. That's my first thing. The N-word is a whole different thing. And I'm tired of people like you doing everything you can to defend other groups of people than us by using us to do it. My question to Mark Lamont Hill, and he hasn't responded. And it's not like he hasn't responded to me before. It's not like he hasn't jumped in my Kool-Aid when he wanted to check out the flavor of my timeline. You know what I'm saying? Like, I made a comment about Tiffany Haddish and her dumb comments on a 154 Africa podcast, and he jumped in my comment section to me directly defending her, as well as Wendell Pierce. They both did this. So it's not like I'm not a known entity. It's not like he didn't see my tweet. It's not like he don't know me. It's not like I'm beneath him. I'm not beneath you. We ain't out of each other's peripheral. You saw my shit. You just don't have a response. Because I said to him, I said, very short and blunt to the point. I said, Stephen, I said, Mark Lamont Hill, why didn't you make a comparison between trans being misgendered? Why didn't you use a Jewish slur? Yeah, because if you use a Jewish slur, they're going to come for your neck. That's why, Mark Lamont Hill. That's why. So what I'm saying is, these same scholars love using black people. Yeah, love comparing everything to black. They compare ICE, picking up undocumented people, to black people, getting rounded up by slave patrols. They compare black people. They compare Palestinians to black people. They compare, everything is compared to black American pain and suffering. Black American trauma, black American, everything. Everything is about comparing us or comparing their situation to our situation. But they won't dare do it. They won't dare use Jewish folks as a comparison, because the Jewish folks will not stand for the BS. Because the Jewish folks have the power to smack you upside the damn head when you do it. But see, us, we just got to take it on the chin. And unfortunately, we got too many cowards that allow people like Mark Lamont Hill to dilute us Same thing with this Ta-Nehisi Coates. He did the same shit. They allow these guys to dilute our situation, our status, our struggle, our cause, our claims. That's what they're doing. They're diluting our claims. Every time you take out of the bank of Black America and compare it to something that ain't got nothing to do with that. You know, there's trans people of all colors. You do understand this, right? Trans people of all colors. I don't think people call Asian trans women N-word. So it doesn't make sense what you're saying. It just doesn't. Calling someone, misgendering someone is rude. So it's calling someone fat, cockeyed, stupid, dumb. These are adjectives. These are labels. These are stupid, moron. These are harsh words. They're not polite. It's impolite. It's rude. It's crass. But it is not racist. It is not the same thing. It's what Black people have had to endure in this country. It's just not. And instead of being a big enough guy to come out and say, hey, I effed up on that, he won't have to. He won't have to do it. He won't even have to address it. Why? Because it's Black people. And a person like me, for even calling it out, doing this segment or in that ex-post, to him and his friends, I'm an annoyance. But if I was Ben Shapiro and he had used Jewish people, a slur that's used against Jewish Americans, he'd be explaining himself. He be doing all that shit. Him and DL will be in the Stutterers Award. We'll be winning the Stutterers Award for who can stutter the quickest when they say the wrong shit. Trying to clean up on aisle 13. But since it's Black Americans, you ain't got to clean up anything, do you? You could just continue like nothing happened because, hey man, nothing did happen. Black people don't have a watchdog until now. I'm your watchdog. And if you push me, I'll bite you. Put me, boom. Now, I'm not going to bite you, but I will call you the hell out. All right, and I think that's what's necessary. And I'm not saying that Mark doesn't have a point that some things can be hurtful to people, and I get that. But you know what? Here's the other part of it. If you touch a child, last thing I'm worried about is your goddamn feelings. If you abuse a child, so Mark, as a professor, you should have to apologize just for that part alone. You got a couple apologies cooked into your shit. Because if someone's putting hands, why are you minimizing what this woman did to a child? Why? Because she's a woman and it was a boy. If it would have been a man who assaulted or touched a girl, you wouldn't be worried about what they called him. Go ahead and deny it. You would not be wasting time trying to defend what name, what sex did you call him? What gender did you refer to him by? Yeah, I think we got a right to not give a shit at that point. We got bigger fish to fry. Like, I don't know, like the mental well-being of the child who was abused by the predator. That would be probably where our focus would go. But since the person who was abused was a little boy, was a boy, or a child, an underage child, then you don't feel you gotta back up off that BS. Huh? So I don't know, man, And here's my theory. I got a theory why all this happened. It happened because you want to be everything to everyone. You want to fight every fight for everybody. And then you end up fighting for nobody. Certainly not Black people. Certainly not Black America. You want to fight for Africans and Jamaicans, Latinos, Guatemalan, people picked up by ICE. We want to fight for trans, gays. We want to fight for everybody. And then all these groups overlap. You end up with this weird diagram of all these interconnecting lines from all these focus groups, all these identities that you're trying to fight for. And that's why I just do this. I fight for Black Americans and working class people. The end. If you're working class and they take your job, put you out on the street with nothing, I'm fighting for you because you're a working class person. Working class people need an advocate. Need somebody to stand up for them. Need somebody to roundhouse kick the system across the chest. That's what I do. If you're a Black American, you're getting railroaded. Whether you're the parents of Nolan Wells or the parents of Michael Brown, right? I'm here, I'm calling that shit out. So it's real simple for me. But see, Malcolm Hill has so many competing narratives and he's trying to, so many bullets, so many hills he wants to die on, he don't know which hill to choose. And when it all comes down to it, the hill that has to sacrifice, the hill that gets compromised, us. Because it's the safest hill to compromise. Certainly on a Joe Budden podcast. Anybody gonna get rid of him for talking shit about Black people over there? So yeah, I don't know, man. This scumbag. This is a scumbag. This person admitted doing what they did. Case closed. Face closed. He has on support Black artists. How about just support Black people, period? You know, just support us. And don't throw us under the bus to support predators. That's a predator. I don't know if it's a man or a woman, doesn't matter. They're a predator. That's what the operative term should be here. And you had to have the white guy, Parks and Mona. They stood on business. Of course, Joe seemed like he was more worried about money. I don't know. Mona and Parks seem like the only two. Maybe I don't know. Oh, guys, let me know what you think in the comment section. It's just, it is what it is. It is what it is. I just wonder sometimes, man. I wonder.
Feel free. Follow me.